Part 43. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 421. Yan, do you still remember the second senior brother? Nolan stood in front of Nan Yan with a smile and took the initiative to greet her. Nan Yan was a little surprised, nodded slightly, and then asked, "Second senior brother, when did you come back?" Back in Shenangjia, the four of them, brother and sister, had a good relationship. But after leaving Shenangjia, contact was gradually lost. It had been 5 or 6 years since she last contacted her second senior brother. But even though he hasn't seen his second senior brother for more than 10 years, he doesn't seem to have changed at all. Still so beautiful. She just didn't know if it was her imagination, but she actually felt that the second senior brother seemed to have become a little feminine. She has slightly long shoulder-length hair, white and somewhat transparent skin, and soft facial features. If she puts on women's clothes and pretends to be a girl, it probably won't be inappropriate at all. It's only been a few days since I came back, but my junior sister, the way you look now is very different from what you were before. Nolan stretched out his hand and pulled Nan Yan's cheek. After confirming that this was her true face, I couldn't help but feel a storm in my heart. When he heard Hua Shifang and Fu Yubai talk about her rebirth after death, he didn't believe it at all. But now that she was standing in front of him, he had to believe it. If this world can exist even through time and rebirth, then immortality must exist. Even he himself is an existence that cannot be explained by science. Now that he has a junior sister who is of the same kind, the great cause he is obsessed with becomes more and more determined. He planned to incite the junior sister to become his colleague. They are the same kind, aren't they? Nan Yan didn't know what he was thinking, so she silently pulled his hand away from her face and asked calmly, "Did Master and third senior brother tell you about me?" "Master and third junior brother only told me that you were coming back today. I estimate that if you hadn't come back, they would have kept it secret from me." Nolan's tone was a bit resentful. "Junior sister, do you treat me as an outsider?" "No," Nan Yan pursed her lips, "it's just not easy to explain, and it's not convenient for too many people to know about my situation." Hua Shifang said, "Yan, Wenheng, stop talking outside and go inside first." Wenheng is the second senior brother's real name. As for Nolan, he is not Wenheng. The real Wenheng was imprisoned in the depths of his consciousness. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood as he watched Nolan borrow his body to mingle with his fellow apprentices. "Asshole, what on earth do you want to do? I'm telling you, don't have any ideas about my little junior sister, do you hear me?" He and Nolan were now one, sharing the same body, and he could also feel Nolan's mood swings and what was going on in his mind. "This bastard has absolutely no evil intentions. I just have her idea, so what can you do? Incompetent waste, what else can you do besides shouting in my head?" Nolan's sarcastic words made Wenheng angry and angry. But, as he said, there was nothing he could do. Obviously he was the owner of the body, but he could only watch Nolan use his body to do crazy things, and was powerless to stop him. In fact, Nolan's obvious strength caused him to be completely suppressed and unable to talk to him anymore. But he didn't do this and kept his consciousness. Wenheng couldn't figure out what his intention was. Even if he knew, it would probably be of no use as he would be powerless to reverse anything. He is a waste. Wenheng fell silent, and Nolan's lips curved into a sneer. "Second senior brother, what are you laughing at?" Nan Yan always felt that the second senior brother she met this time did not feel right to her. But thinking about it, they haven't seen each other for more than 10 years, so it's normal to feel strange. Nolan raised his eyes and smiled faintly. "It's nothing, I just think that my junior sister is quite cute now that she's like this." "Nan Yan. What the hell is cute? Can she be related to cuteness?" "Yan, it's a good time for you to come back this time. The Miracle Doctor's gate has been renovated and is ready to reopen. I want you to come forward directly. From now on, I will leave the Miracle Doctor's gate to you to take care of it. Hua Shifang came back this time to support Nan Yan and to clean out the worms in the Heaven and Earth Alliance. He and Sun Quan discussed for a long time and felt that they still couldn't let the master fall like this anymore. Otherwise, I am afraid that the 1,000-year inheritance of the Heaven and Earth Alliance will end with their generation. Nan Yan was embarrassed. Master, I may not have much time to stay at the Miracle Doctor sect recently. It doesn't matter. Master will take care of you at the Miracle Doctor section when you are done with your work. It won't be too late to take over again. Usually, you just take time out from time to time and come over to see me as your teacher. When it comes to doting on his disciples, he is still the Chinese Miracle Doctor. Moreover, he has accepted 4 apprentices, and the one he likes the most is still this little apprentice. Nan Yan felt relieved now and asked softly, Master, when do you plan to reopen the Divine Doctor sect? You come and set a date, just within the next few days. Nan Yan pondered for a moment. Is the Great Elder's ancient medical clinic also about to open? Fu Yubai said, they set it in 3 days. Then we'll set a date for 3 days. Nan Yan's eyes were sharp. Since the ancient medical center wants to compete with our Miracle Doctor sect, let them see what they are without the Miracle Doctor section. Good. Hua Shifang also has this plan. He and Nan Yan thought of it together. Where is the second master? After chatting for so long, Nan Yan realized that Sun Quan was not there. Uncle, he is in Baiko Garden. Fu Yubai brought a cup of tea to Nan Yan. As for Qin Lu, he was also given a cup. By the way, there is a rare elixir in Baiko Garden that is about to mature recently. He and Bai Zi are going to guard the medicinal materials. Nan Yan recalled the rare medicinal materials in the small medicine garden. It must be the purple star lotus. Fu Yubai, yes, that's the purple star lotus. Master, please tell second master, I want half of that purple star lotus. If you can use it, I'll give you the whole plant. Hua Shifang directly made the decision for Sun Quan. Nan Yan shook his head, you don't need the whole plant, I'll just use half of it. While they were talking, Nolan's eyes fell on Nan Yan from time to time. Her resurrection after death was too attractive to him. In a certain sense, he was possessed and reborn. But his soul was not reborn in Wenheng after death. He transferred all his memories to Wenheng's brain while he was still alive, and relied on those memories to reshape his state of consciousness. In the beginning, he was very weak and could not control this body at all. Later, as he absorbed the power of Wenheng and fed himself, he gradually gained the upper hand and took control of the body. One was man-made and the other was God's will. He wanted to see what the difference was between the two of them. Qin Lu did not participate in the conversation between their master and apprentice, and focused more on Nolan. He has a strong sixth sense and intuition, and he doesn't like the second senior brother in front of him. The aura on his body is too dark, it seems that he has been familiar. Hashtag. After staying in the courtyard for nearly 4 hours, Nan Yan and Qin Lu left. Junior sister, come and add your contact information. Second senior brother has lost the previous contact information. Nolan looked at her with a smile. Wenheng gritted his teeth deep in his consciousness. Before he was about to be controlled by Nolan, he deleted all the contact information between him and all his relatives and friends. In order to prevent Nolan from using his identity to harm them. It is still inevitable that he will use his identity to get close to people who have no idea that he is wrong. Wenheng thought sadly, he was such a waste, he didn't even have the ability to drag him to death together. Nan Yan opened WeChat on her mobile phone and added Nolan as friends. Second senior brother, it's done. Yes, Nolan's smile spread across his face. Let's keep in touch from now on, little junior sister. Master, third senior brother, my brother and I will leave first. I will come back in 3 days. Go ahead. Hashtag. In the car, Qin Lu reached out and stroked her long hair, and asked quietly, Yan, how familiar are you with your second senior brother? Nan Yan was startled, raised her eyes and looked into his deep eyes, and quickly realized the meaning of his words. After a moment of silence, she said, I am familiar with him in Zhenengjia. I don't know him well in the outside world. This is the first time we have met in the outside world. Even Fu Yubai, she met him for the first time outside in Jinqing. Perhaps she was closer to Fu Yubai when they were in Zhenengjia and spent more time together, so she didn't feel how strange and alienated she was from him. But today I saw Wen Heng. She felt that there seemed to be something not close to her. Qin Lu gently stroked her head and said quietly, people will change due to external conditions, either for worse or for better. You and he haven't seen each other for more than 10 years. You need to get to know him well now. He is deciding whether he deserves your trust. Nan Yan suddenly turned around and looked at him. Brother, did you discover something? When he first met Fu Yubai, he didn't say these words. And now he said this specifically, as if to remind her to stay wary of Wen Heng. Qin Lu thought for a while and used an adjective that was easy for her to accept, his mind is rather dark. If he didn't know that he was the apprentice of divine Dr. Hua, he felt that he was more like a person living in darkness. Nan Yan's emotions, which had been blinded by the identity of senior brothers and sisters, suddenly became clear. She nodded, I understand. Looking at her solemn expression, Qin Lu sighed softly, I hope I'm overly concerned. Nanyan also hopes. After all, she didn't want their senior brother-sister relationship to break down. Hashtag. It was exactly 6 o'clock in the afternoon when we returned to Qin's house. Dinner had been prepared in the kitchen for a long time. Qin Xiu knew that Nan Yan was back, so she left her best friend outside and hurried back. Yan, you are back. Mrs. Qin looked at her with red eyes and held Nan Yan's hand. You said you would only go away for a few days. It has been more than half a month since you left. Look, you have lost a lot of weight now. Are you working too hard outside? The brat must have failed to take good care of you, right? Qin Lu. Can the old lady be a little more biased? Nan Yan patted her hand and coaxed, no, I'm just a little tired. Don't worry. Brother, he has been taking care of me, really. Humph, he doesn't know how to help you solve the problem, and he still makes you suffer. It's so inappropriate. Nan Yan. This is unreasonable anger. Silently giving Boss Jean a sympathetic look, Nan Yan patiently tried to make Mrs. Jean happy. After she coaxed Mrs. Jean into good health, Qin Xiu quietly came over again. Yan, do you still have the skincare products you gave me last time? I have 2 best friends who saw that my skin has become delicate and fair. They tortured me and asked me. I had no choice but to agree to give it to each of them. Said. Qin Xiu's voice became softer and softer, and in the end she felt a little embarrassed. She had been using Nanyan's skincare products for nothing, but now she had to use 2 sets of them. How embarrassing. Yan, how much are those skincare products? I'll give you the money. No, it was originally made for personal use. Because there are many people using it, I make a lot of it. I will give you 2 sets in a few days. Remember to tell me when you have used up, and I will give them to you again. Yeah, Qin Xiu hugged her excitedly, Yan, you are so good. Nan Yan waited for her to finish her excitement before saying, Xiu, can you do me a favor and make an appointment with the principal of Imperial University? Okay, I'll ask the principal now when he will be free. Qin Xiu was impatient, so she took out her cell phone and called Zhang Chinayan, the principal of Imperial University. When the call got through, she said a few words and then hung up. It's done. The principal knows you, so when he heard that you were looking for him, he immediately agreed. He will be free all day tomorrow. Just call him whenever you want to see him. Qin Ye pushed Zhang Chinayan's phone number to Nan Yan, and then asked with a curious face, "But Yan, what do you want to see the principal for?" "I'm going to see the principal tomorrow. Can you take me with you?" Nan explained, "I want to participate in Imperial University's independent enrollment, but now that the time has passed, I want to find a backdoor with the principal." Qin Ye opened her eyes wide. "You don't plan to go to the third year of high school?" "There's no hurry, I can only skip my senior year." "Yan, you are so awesome." Qin Ye sighed sincerely. She is also a top student. But she was not willful and said that if she wanted to jump to the third year of high school, she would just jump to the third year of high school. She only dared to skip the first year of high school. She read the second and third years of high school honestly and worked very hard. The next day, in the morning, Qin Lu Company had something to do, so Wu Yu was asked to be Nan Yan's driver. As soon as Nan Yan and Qin Ye got in the car, Wu Yu asked flatteringly, "Miss Nan, where are you going?" "Nan Yan, the flower tea house next to Imperial University." "Flower tea house." Zhang Chinayan arrived a few minutes earlier than Nan Yan. He sat in the elegant room and drank a cup of tea before Nan Yan and Qin Ye arrived. As soon as the door of the private room opened, he noticed the bright and dazzling girl standing next to Qin Ye. "Hello, Principal Zhang." Nan Yan greeted him with a humble nod. "Nan Yan, hello." Zhang Chinayan smiled and looked very approachable. "No need to be so polite, sit down quickly." "Xiu, you also sit down." After sitting down, Zhang Chinayan spoke again. "The last time you came to Imperial University to participate in the National Youth Computer Competition, I noticed you and planned to recruit you to Imperial University after a year." Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 422. After meeting with Zhang Chinayan, the president of Imperial University, he said with a smile, "I noticed you the last time you came to Imperial University to participate in the National Youth Computer Competition. I had planned to wait a year after the college entrance examination to recruit you into Imperial University. The dean of the computer department has told me several times that he wants to make an exception to admit you. If I hadn't pressed him, he would probably have gone to Jinjinj to see you in person." Nan Yan was not surprised by Zhang Chinayan's praise and said, "President, please thank the dean of the computer department for me, but I don't plan to enter the computer department." "You don't want to go to the computer department?" Zhang Chinayan was a little surprised. He thought that with Nan Yan's achievements in computers, she would definitely choose the computer department when she chose a subject in college. It seems that he misjudged it. "Which department do you want to go to?" After Zhang Chinayan became interested in Nan Yan, he investigated her. Knowing that in addition to her talent in computers, she also scored full marks in several monthly exams, midterm exams, and final exams in the second half of her sophomore year. She won the first place in all the competitions she participated in on behalf of Zhide High School. It's understandable that she wants to choose other departments. After all, she has the strength. "I want to enter the Department of Biology." Zhang Chinayan just took a sip of the teacup and choked when she heard Nan Yan's words. Cough, cough. Zhang Chinayan put the teacup down, stopped coughing and asked with difficulty, "Nan Yan, are you serious?" Nan Yan silently handed over a tissue. "I am a fan of Dean Zongjingkai, and I chose the Imperial University just to get closer to my idol." Zhang Chinayan took the tissue, wiped his mouth, and then looked at her with a complicated look. "Nan Yan, to tell you the truth, if you want to go to other departments, I can agree to it directly. But the Department of Biology." He paused, and then said, "Zongjingkai, the old guy hates backdoors the most. If I help you, I'm afraid he will have a bad impression of you. Even if he accepts you for my sake, he won't take much care of you. The Department of Biology is the department with the smallest number of students in the Imperial University, but it is also the most demanding department for students. The requirements for admission are simply abnormal. As the president of the Imperial University, Zhang Chinayan could not give any orders to Zhong Jinkai's biology department, which was entirely up to his own preferences. Alas! Nan Yan raised her eyebrows and said, "Principal, you misunderstood. I didn't plan to take the back door." Huh, Zhang Chinayan was a little confused. "Didn't you ask Xiao to call me and ask me to make an exception and skip the college entrance examination and go directly to Imperial University?" Qin Xiao blinked and explained quickly, "Principal, maybe I didn't explain it clearly on the phone. Yanyan asked me to find you, not to make an exception for her to enroll, but to make an exception for her to take another independent enrollment examination. During the independent enrollment examination of Imperial University, Yanyan was abroad and didn't catch up, so I want you to make an exception and let her take another exam after the independent enrollment examination. It's all because she didn't say it clearly. But this is also because the president agreed directly when he heard that Yanyan was going to Imperial University, without asking anything, so she didn't have a chance to say it." Nan Yan waited for Qin Xiao to finish speaking, coughed lightly, and looked directly at Zhang Chinayan. "Principal, is it okay?" "Of course, Nan Yan, when do you want to take the exam?" "If you have time, now is fine. Then come with me to Imperial Capital University." Hashtag. The car drove slowly inside Imperial Capital University. Nan Yan had been here once before, but that time was for a computer competition, so she didn't pay much attention to the scenery of Imperial Capital University. After all, there were too many people and it was too lively, so people had no time to pay attention to the surrounding environment. It is still a holiday, and there is no one on campus, so it is just right to calm down and observe. Now sitting in the car, looking at the Imperial University campus slowly passing by, I realized that the reason why this Imperial Capital University is called the first university in China is indeed reasonable. Not only is the environment beautiful and quiet, but the academic atmosphere is also very strong. It is probably a good experience to be able to study here in the future. The car stopped outside the principal's office. Zhang Chinayan opened the door of the office, went to the safe and took out a set of self-enrollment test papers and handed them to Nan Yan. "One day should be enough. If you are hungry, we can order takeout to save time. It won't take that long. 2 or 3 hours will be enough." Nan Yan took a pen from the table, opened the pen cap, and began to answer questions. Zhang Chinayan reminded, "The questions of this independent enrollment exam are very difficult, much more difficult than the college entrance examination papers. Don't be too careless." Although he was optimistic about Nan Yan, she was just a prospective graduate who should be in the 3rd year of high school after all, and the papers of this independent enrollment exam were the most difficult in history. He was worried that she would be hit. You know, this year's independent enrollment exam results are not generally low compared with previous years. The highest score of the candidates now is only over 500. "I know." Nan Yan replied lightly while answering the questions. "You should answer the questions carefully first." Zhang Chinayan touched his pocket and felt that it was not appropriate to smoke in the office. It would be bad if it affected Nan Yan's answering. He turned his head and saw Qin Xiao holding her chin with both hands, sitting opposite Nan Yan and watching her answer the questions. He simply pulled a chair over and sat beside her to watch. Nan Yan's speed in answering the questions surprised both of them. Qin Xiao felt that she had just finished reading the question, and Nan Yan wrote down the answer without even thinking about it. Whether it's a fill-in-the-blank question or a multiple-choice question, it almost always takes a few seconds. After 5 or 6 minutes, she finished answering the first side and turned over. Qin Xiao's brain was swollen and mushy after watching it. She read through the questions at a faster pace, only to catch up with her speed at doing the questions. Qin Xiao raised her head in horror and looked at Zhang Chinayan. It turned out that Zhang Chinayan's eyes were no less surprised than hers, and then he felt balanced in his heart. It's good that she wasn't the only one who was shocked. Sure enough, there are more normal people in the world, and there are very few people who can compete with monsters like her elder brother. But now there is another Nanyan. The later questions required more words, so Nanyan's answer speed was a little slower. However, this was also relative to her speed in answering the questions on the previous page. Even if she slowed down later, she still finished writing a set of test papers in 30 minutes. When Nanyan put the finished test paper aside and went to write down a set of test papers, Zhang Chinayan and Qin Ye got together and gave her the answers to that set of test papers. The more correct it was, the more surprised the two of them were. All the fill-in-the-blank questions are correct. The multiple-choice questions are all correct. All the true and false questions are correct. The analysis questions are all correct. Zhang Chinayan's breathing was a little rapid, and even his heartbeat accelerated a lot. He took out his cell phone with trembling fingers and immediately called the deans of several departments. "Come to my office quickly. Now, right now." Qin Ye waited for him to finish the call and said quietly, "Principal, aren't you afraid that some deans will come and start a fight over cigarettes?" She had already guessed that if the deans of several major departments knew about Nanyan's strength, they would fight over her. Real. The picture was so beautiful that she couldn't help but want to move a chair now, grab some melon seeds, and wait to watch the excitement. Ahem. Zhang Chinayan forced himself to calm down. "I just feel that I can't bear the stimulation alone, and I want to ask a few people to follow me to get stimulation." Oh. Several deans, except for the dean of the Department of Political Science and Law who took a long time to come because he was outside the school, the other deans were all at the school. After receiving Zhang Chinayan's call, they thought something had happened to him and hurriedly came one by one. Ran over. After all, Zhang Chinayan's tone on the phone was a bit off, and he called so many of them at once. There must be something big going on. 10 minutes later, several people came over on shared electric scooters. "Principal, what's wrong with you? Lao Zhang, don't let anything happen to you. What's wrong with you? What happened?" A group of deans of all ages rushed into the office. Seeing Zhang Chinayan holding a test paper with trembling hands, he looked up at them and gathered around him with a rush. "What's wrong? Is there something wrong with this test paper? Lao Zhang, you said you were on vacation. Take a rest when you need to. What should I do if I tire myself out again? Are you having a heart attack? Have you taken any medicine? You all shut up." Zhang Chinayan's face turned a little dark. If he didn't speak, they would probably think he was about to die. Qin Ye looked on stunned. Doesn't it mean that the relationship between several deans and the principal is not good? This is a rumor from Chiguakyo. These old men clearly have deep feelings. Okay. You didn't call us here in a hurry. If you don't give us an explanation, don't blame us for falling out with you. That's right, we came here to care about you, but you dare to shut us up. What happened to you? You guys, look at this set of test papers. Oh, and this one too. Zhang Chinayan saw that Nanyan had finished writing another set, and took the one she had just finished over. Only then did the deans discover that there were other people in the office. One is a student of Imperial University, Qin Ye from the Department of Finance, whom they both know, and the other. He also seemed to be a familiar face. When Nanyan came to participate in the National Youth Computer Competition, they also saw her. However, this student is not a sophomore in high school. Should he be a senior in high school? Why are you here? Nanyan was answering the question seriously, and their arrival did not affect her at all. They simply looked at Zhang Chinayan and asked him what was going on. Read the test paper first. Zhang Chinayan pointed at the paper they were holding. Dean Zheng from the School of Physics looked at it and asked doubtfully, Isn't this the paper for our independent admissions examination this year? Zhang Chinayan nodded. Well, that's the test paper. Let's see how she answers. Although the deans didn't know why Zhang Chinayan asked Nan Yan to write the test papers for their independent admissions exam, since she had written it and he asked them to read it, he would take a look. After they started watching, the atmosphere gradually became tense. Also, I want to say that it only took Nan Yan less than half an hour to write 2 sets of test papers. Zhang Chinayan's words dropped another bomb in the hearts of several deans. After they finished reading the test paper, checked the answers, and all scored full marks on the test paper, they looked at Nan Yan like a wolf who had been hungry for 10 days and saw meat. All glowed red. Nan Yan can get full marks on such a difficult math test. She is definitely a student of our math department. What a joke. What do you mean she is from your math department? She also got full marks in physics, so she is obviously from our physics department. You are not allowed to compete with me. When she came to participate in the computer competition, I decided to let her come to our computer department. The dean of the math department and the dean of the physics department shared the same hatred and glared at the dean of the computer department, saying angrily, "You, a computer player, go away. Nan Yan is a good seedling for academic research. How dare you compete with us?" Why, the dean of the computer department was not in a good mood either. Nan Yan has the highest talent in computers. She chose math and physics to do academic research. Does studying computer with me mean she is ignorant? You dare to discriminate against my computer department. Do you not want to use computers in the future? Everyone. A group of old men who are hundreds of years old in total quarreled over Nan Yan. Zhang Chinayan sat aside and drank 2 cups of tea. His mentality finally calmed down a little. Seeing that the old guys were about to quarrel, he said calmly, "What's the point of you fighting for so long? Nan Yan has the final say on which department she wants to go to." Yes. They want to ask the students' opinions. Just when they were about to ask, they saw Nan Yan was still answering the questions seriously, so they could only suppress their emotions one by one and not disturb her. Now they have just checked 2 subjects, and there are other subjects. They can't be too anxious and affect her mentality in answering questions. Zhang Chinayan poured them a few cups of tea and said, "Come here, have a cup of tea to cool down, and wait for Nan Yan to finish the remaining test papers." Several deans sat in a row at the desk, drinking tea while looking at Nan Yan without blinking. Qin Ye kept typing on the keyboard with both hands, telling Qin Lu about the situation here. "Brother, you don't know that several deans of the Imperial University almost rolled up their sleeves to fight for Yan Yan. Yan Yan is really amazing. She can write the answer to such a difficult question at a glance. How does her brain grow? We are both human beings, why is her brain so much better than mine? God is so unfair." Qin Lu, "Because she is your big brother and I like her." Big brother Qin killed Qin Shiu in one sentence. Qin Shiu. She doesn't want to talk to a pervert. Humph. After sending an ellipsis, Qin Shiu was too lazy to pay attention to him and simply told Mrs. Qin. Then, Mrs. Qin was even more excited than her. She wished she was there to see the scene of the deans fighting for Nan Yan. Qin Shiu. Okay, she forgot that grandma is a fan of Nan Yan, even more than her. 2 hours later, Nan Yan stretched her waist, capped the pen, and said in a light voice, "I'm done." As soon as she finished speaking, the test paper she had just finished was snatched away by the deans. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 423. 2 hours later, Nan Yan stretched his waist, put the pen cap back on, and said softly, "I'm done writing." As soon as she finished speaking, the test paper she had just finished was snatched away by the deans. This is really magical. Our Imperial University needs another genius. Let's make an agreement first. If Nan Yan wants to enter my physics department, none of you can try to compete with me. Fart, look at her composition, and then look at her opinions on ancient poetry. If she can be well cultivated, she will definitely become a great contemporary writer. Nonsense. It can be seen from her problem-solving ideas on the math test paper that she will definitely be an academic genius in the future. Do you want to delay her? Zhang Chinayan and Qin Ye watched several deans quarreling over Nanyan again, so they simply moved a bench by themselves and sat aside drinking tea, watching with great interest. These deans, who usually look like old academics and are top idols in the eyes of Imperial College students, are probably even more excited when they see them than when they see celebrities. Now they are actually quarreling like the ants buying vegetables at the wet market. Such a contrast is so shocking. Seeing that several deans were noisy and blushing, they couldn't help but roll up their sleeves and take action. Nan Yan rubbed his brows and stopped him. Deans, please calm down. The deans who were arguing seemed to have pressed the pause button and turned to look at her at the same time. Only then did they remember. They have been arguing for a long time to no avail. They need to ask the opinions of the people involved. By the way, student Nan Yan, which department do you want to enter? Is it the mathematics department? Classmate Nan Yan, don't listen to him. Entering the mathematics department will test your hair too much. Look at you, a pretty girl. If you are bald in the future, you should come to the literature department. Old man Du, why didn't I realize you were so insidious? The dean of the mathematics department pointed at Du Chong of the literature department with a trembling hand, looking furious. But Du Chong was indeed right. Regardless of whether the medical department is bald, most students in the mathematics and physics departments have thinner hair than students in other departments. Du Chong's eyes widened slightly. I'm just telling the truth. Look at our classmate Nan Yan, who is as beautiful as a little fairy. If she turns into a bald girl in the future, wouldn't it be such a waste of nature? Old man Do you want to fight? The dean of the mathematics department rolled up his sleeves and said angrily. The other deans hurriedly came over to stop them. Stop, 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 how old are you two? It's not appropriate to make such a noise, and you're not afraid of being laughed at by fellow student Nan Yan. How about your heaviness as the dean of the Imperial University? How about your stability? Don't frighten Nanyan again by making noises. Calm down, everyone. Now we want to listen to classmate Nan Yan's opinion. It's useless for you to argue. Nan Yan's eyes fell on Zhong Jingkai, who didn't seem to be any better than the other deans. It had to be said that seeing Dean Zhong Jingkai in person today had greatly changed her impression of him. Dean Zhong Jingkai was also her father Nan Mingxuan's mentor. When she was a child, she often heard her father talk about Dean Zhong's deeds. According to her father's description, the headmaster of the sect was like a flower on the high mountain. He was very cold and indifferent. Getting his approval was even harder than climbing to the sky. Now, like other deans, he wants her to enter his biology department. I originally thought she would have to put in a lot of trouble, but now it seems that as long as she nods, she can directly become the student of the dean of the sect. This is good news for Nanyan. The last thing she can't waste now is time. Only by getting the approval of the dean of the clan as soon as possible can the dean of the clan work with her to study the medicine to treat Shen Junqing and Bai Chen as soon as possible. After hearing the deans asking for her opinion, Nan Yan looked directly at Zhong Jingkai. Dean of the clan, I want to enter the biology department. As soon as she finished speaking, several deans became irritable. Only Zhong Jingkai was stunned for a moment, then nodded repeatedly, okay, okay. Hey, student Nan Yan, let me tell you, choosing a college is related to your future. You see that your talents in other subjects are not bad. You should think about it carefully, but don't blindly decide on a college. Tai. You should think about it again. It's still some time before the semester starts, so don't rush to decide which department to choose. Or, you can stay in each department for a while and experience it on the spot. It's not too late to decide. That's right, student Nan Yan, you must think it over carefully. Why don't you follow Du Yuan's wishes and try each department for a while to see which department you prefer before making a decision? Zhong Jingkai was just happy that Nan Yan had chosen the Department of Biology, and when he didn't need any more persuasion, he heard that the other deans still refused to give up, and even suggested that Nan Yan should take turns to experience other departments. He suddenly felt a sense of crisis again. You all shut up. Nan Yan has chosen the biology department, and we must support her choice. With her talent, her achievements will be good no matter which department she is in, and she will become the pride of our Imperial University in the future. Don't worry, I will teach her well and I will never waste her talent. However, other deans did not buy what he said. But if you get a gifted student, you must be happy, but what about them? They watched helplessly as such an all-powerful genius was in front of them, but he chose other departments, which had nothing to do with them. How could they tolerate this? At that moment, several deans were angry at Zhong Jingkai. Zhong Jingkai was alone in fighting them off, and they were almost unable to fight back. Nan Yan. Okay, let them quarrel enough before we talk. She looked up and saw Zhang Chinayan and Qin Xiu sitting aside drinking tea, so she walked over. Qin Xiu saw her coming and quickly poured her a cup of tea. Yan Yan, drink some tea and replenish your water. After answering the test paper for so long, you must replenish your water. Nan Yan took the tea she handed over, lowered her head and took a sip, then looked at Zhang Chinayan. Principal, were they like this before? Zhang Chinayan shook his head, they weren't like this before. He said calmly, Nan Yan, thanks to you today, I was able to see their vivid side. If I wasn't worried that they would come after me, I would have wanted to record it and post it on the campus website, so that the teachers and students of the Imperial University could see their down-to-earth side, saving the teachers and students of the school from seeing them as unattainable idols. Nan Yan. The principal's awareness is still quite high, knowing that the dean's current appearance cannot be filmed and posted. Nan Yan, I actually think what Mr. Du said makes sense. You are extremely talented in all subjects and are a rare all-round talent. If you are willing, I can give you a privilege. You can choose which department you want to go to. I think that in this way, the deans don't have to fight for you and hurt the harmony. Zhang Chinayan's proposal was just made after he had thought it over carefully before he told Nan Yan. From the speed at which Nan Yan finished the test paper just now, as well as her problem-solving ideas and accuracy, it is enough to see that her real ability has probably surpassed the university stage. In her analysis, she used a lot of ideas that only graduate students would have, and there was also a problem-solving idea that he had never seen before, which was simpler and more accurate than all the known problem-solving ideas. He had a hunch that Nan Yan would definitely continue to shock the world in the future. Giving her more freedom to choose would be more beneficial to her and their Imperial Capital University. Imperial Capital University is only ranked 69th in the ranking of world-renowned universities, and it is also the only university in China that has entered the top 100 in the world. On the surface, this ranking seems not bad. However, China is the world's most populous country with a 5,000-year history of civilization. In those 5,000 years, it has reached the world's first place many times. But after a heavy blow a few hundred years ago, its international influence declined rapidly, falling out of the level of the strong, and was threatened by some small countries. After nearly 100 years, countless people have worked hard to finally get rid of the backwardness of the past and start to return, but it has been delayed for too long. If we want to catch up with those developed countries, we still have some gap. However, this gap is constantly shrinking. He always believes that China will overcome all difficulties and return to the top. As the cradle of cultivating talents, schools are also a top priority. If the Imperial Capital University becomes one of the top 10 schools in the world, it will keep a large part of the students who go abroad to study and go to foreign schools. For so many years, how many talented students have been recruited by foreign institutions, and then lost in the various promised benefits, so they choose to stay abroad. Zhang Chinayan also knows that he can't blame those students for choosing to stay abroad. After all, in order to retain them, foreign countries provide them with superior benefits, and they have to admit that foreign countries are developing faster than domestic ones. However, he is heartbroken when he sees the talents that his country has worked hard to cultivate turn around to serve foreign countries, and even be used as a sharp blade to attack his own country. Changing this phenomenon is his lifelong pursuit, and it is also the lifelong pursuit of countless college presidents who teach and educate people. Now, a person who can change the international ranking of the Imperial University has appeared, and he must do his best to help her grow up. Zhang Chinayan looked at Nan Yan sincerely and said earnestly, "Nan Yan, you don't have to give me an answer so quickly. Anyway, there is still some time before the school starts. You can think about it carefully and tell me after the school starts." Nan Yan hesitated for a moment and nodded, "Okay." The quarreling deans heard that Nan Yan agreed, and they stopped quarreling immediately. They all sat at their desks and started drinking water. They quarreled for too long and their throats were dry. They sat in Zhang Chinayan's office for another 10 minutes. It was time for lunch, and Zhang Chinayan generously invited them to dinner. Nan Yan did not refuse, but when they were eating, she deliberately went to pay the bill first. She also learned about Zhang Chinayan, the president of the Imperial University. He was honest and simple. In these years, the money he won from awards and wages, except for daily expenses, were all donated to Hope Primary School to support the country's education construction. This meal was nothing in her eyes, but for Principal Zhang, it was probably half a month's living expenses. He couldn't spend any more money. When Zhang Chinayan paid the bill, he knew that Nan Yan had paid for it, and he would transfer the meal money to Nan Yan no matter what. Qin Ye said, "Principal, Yan Yan can earn millions of yuan for a live broadcast, so don't compete with her for paying the bill." Zhang Chinayan. He silently took back his outstretched hand and looked at Nan Yan, wanting to say something but stopping. In the end, he sighed and said nothing. Before leaving, Nan Yan added President Zhang and several deans on WeChat, and then President Zhang created a group and invited several deans and other deans who had not yet returned. The only student was Nan Yan. "Zhang Chinayan, everyone, let's get to know each other. This is a new kid in our school, please take good care of her in the future." "Zhong Jingkai, my student," his tone was quite proud. Other deans sent a unified message, "Welcome Nan Yan to join Imperial Capital University." As for the deans who did not come, they were confused. What was going on? Then they contacted other people privately to ask what was going on. After listening to the deans present tell the story, they beat their chests and stamped their feet, regretting why they were not in school. Hashtag. Leaving Imperial Capital University and returning to Qin's house, Qin Shiu excitedly grabbed Nan Yan's hand and spoke incoherently with excitement. "Yan Yan, you are so amazing. You will be my idol from now on. I want to be your loyal fan. Yan Yan, you are so amazing. How did you do it? Can you teach me? Oh, I am so happy to have you as my sister-in-law in this life." Nan Yan stretched out her hand to rub her eyebrows and said helplessly, "Shiu, calm down." "Oh, I can't calm down. She is too excited now. How can she calm down? When you go home, I guess Grandma will be excited to see you." Nan Yan thought about it and said to Wu Yu, who was driving in front, "I won't go back yet. Wu Yu, take me to the courtyard and then take Shiu." "Okay, Miss Nan." When Qin Xiu heard that she was going to separate from Nan Yan, she quickly hugged her arm and acted coquettishly to her. If you don't go back, then I won't go back either. I want to follow you. Nan Yan explained, I'm not going to any interesting place. It's okay. Wherever you are, I will be there. Anyway, she just needs to follow her. It's just right, I can also follow Yanyan and meet some of her friends. Okay, if you are bored, let Wu Yu take you back. Yeah, Qin Xiu nodded hurriedly, muttering in a low voice, with Yanyan here, I will definitely not be bored. The car was about to drive to the courtyard, and from a distance, Nan Yan found that there were several cars parked outside the courtyard. The owners of these cars are here to find the master? Nan Yan thought to herself. Wu Yu suddenly said, Miss Nan, look at this license plate number, the identity of the other party is probably very unusual. Nan Yan was reminded by Wu Yu, and her eyes looked at the car parked at the gate of the courtyard. What's special about these license plates? Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 424. Nan Yan didn't know much about these license plate numbers, and didn't know what was going on. Wu Yu explained, Miss Nan, did you see the red Z at the front of the license plate? That is a special head that only high-ranking officials can use, and ordinary private cars are not allowed to use it. Wu Yu's face became a little solemn as he spoke. No matter who it is, it's not okay to come to trouble my master. Nan Yan's voice was indifferent and her tone was sharp. Wu Yu, you and Xiu don't go in with me for a while, wait until I go in to understand the situation. Yes, Miss Nan. Wu Yu's idea was very simple. He was outside, and if there was really something inside, he could ask the young master for help directly. Moreover, with Miss Nan's strength, it didn't seem to make any difference whether he followed in or not. Qin Xiu wanted to go in with Nan Yan, but seeing Nan Yan's somewhat gloomy expression, she suppressed her eagerness. She couldn't help Yan Yan, so she couldn't cause trouble for her. The car stopped outside Sun Chan's courtyard. Nan Yan got out and walked directly into the courtyard. The gate of the courtyard was open at this time. As he walked inside, he could already hear the conversations of people inside. I don't care if you are Hua Shifang, Zhang Shifang, or Li Shifang. Only Elder Gu can open this divine doctor's clinic. If you want to open a clinic, change the name, otherwise you will infringe on Elder Gu's trademark rights of divine doctor, which is illegal. Elder Gu is the great Elder Gu Bofan. Ever since he met Hua Shifang, he has been feeling uneasy. After Nan Yan's incident, he and Hua Shifang have completely broken up, and Hua Shifang was angered by them at the beginning, and there is no friendship between them. Now the two have torn their faces and are planning to fight, and Hua Shifang will open on the same day as his ancient medical clinic. He is determined to make him unhappy. So, he simply goes all out and makes it impossible for their divine doctor to open. The divine doctor sect is his trademark. That's what he said. Hua Shifang was intimidating without being angry, and his aura was extremely strong. He was angry. He was not only angry at Gu Bofan's greed, but also at his meanness. How could the divine doctor sect, which he founded personally, become his trademark, and he couldn't use it even if he wanted to? That's right, the divine doctor sect was founded by Elder Gu, and he applied for the trademark just a few days ago, so he naturally owns the ownership. If you want to use this trademark, you need to get Elder Gu's authorization, otherwise you have no right to use it. He's talking nonsense. The divine doctor sect was obviously founded by my senior brother, how dare he say that? If Fu Yubai hadn't pulled Sun Chan would probably have pointed at Feng Tiangong's nose and cursed. Sun Chan rarely participated in worldly disputes. He spent most of his life growing medicinal herbs in Baiko Garden. He had a straightforward and impulsive temper, and especially couldn't stand seeing his senior brother being bullied. Yubai, let me go. I'm going to kick these bastards out. Uncle Master, calm down. Fu Yubai grabbed him harder and asked him to calm down. This is not something that can be kicked out. Now we live in a society ruled by law. If the other party really registers the trademark first, it will be difficult to deal with. Even if they are kicked out, it will be useless. Hua Shifang put his hand on Sun Quan, stared at Feng Tiangang with a cold gaze, and said sternly, then call Gu Bofan over and confront me to see who owns this divine doctor section. Feng Tiangang frowned. He came here to inform them and let them have some sense and not to make trouble for Elder Gu. Hua Shifang is Hua the divine doctor, but he disappeared for more than 10 years and has long been forgotten. And even if Sun Quan is the god of medicine in the field of traditional Chinese medicine, in the eyes of these ordinary people, he is just a herbal farmer who grows medicine. Feng Tiangang didn't take them seriously at all. I advise you to be sensible. Elder Gu is kind-hearted and has no intention of killing everyone. Just change the name of your clinic. If you don't listen to my advice, don't blame me for not being able to open your clinic. I want to see who is so arrogant that our clinic can't be opened. Nan Yan's cool voice was arrogant and cold. She didn't expect that someone would dare to trouble her master. Even if the master had been away from the world for more than 10 years, his reputation was still here, and the elder could actually ignore the old relationship and find someone to humiliate him. She couldn't stand this. Yan Yan, why are you here? When Hua Shifang and the others saw her coming, they had no time to deal with Feng Tiangang, and they hurriedly surrounded her. Although the people brought by Feng Tiangang did not hold weapons in their hands, they were tall and strong, and they were all martial artists. They were worried that Nan Yan would be hurt. However, they forgot that Nan Yan was not an ordinary person, and these people could not hurt her even if they attacked together. But in the eyes of those who care about her, no matter how strong Nan Yan is, she is still a little disciple/younger sister who needs their protection. If anyone dares to hurt her, they have to get through them first. Who are you? Feng Tiangang looked at Nan Yan with a gloomy face. Where did this little girl come from, and dared to talk to him like this? Nan Yan first said a few words to Hua Shifang and the others, and then looked at Feng Tiangang again, saying coldly, the boss of the divine doctor sect that is about to open. So you are the girl that Elder Gu mentioned, who was pressing and oppressing him step by step. Feng Tiangang realized her identity, and then his tone became sharp, little girl, don't be too arrogant. You are a young boy, but you forced the kind-hearted Elder Gu to close the clinic for several months. You are so brave. Feng Tiangang trusts Gu Bofan very much. Because Gu Bofan saved his father's life. At that time, his father Feng Lin was seriously ill, and the experts of the Imperial Capital Hospital asked him to come back to prepare for his death. It was Gu Bofan who saved him. Now Feng Lin is getting better and better every year, and his spirits are also good. There is no longer the dying look of the past. It is because of this incident that Feng Tiangang regards Gu Bofan as a distinguished guest and tries his best to meet any request of him. But for so many years, Gu Bofan has never mentioned asking him for help. This is the first time that he has come to trouble Hua Shifang and others. Although he didn't want to bully others, he heard Gu Bofan say that Hua Shifang actually relied on his senior brother and saw that the Divine Doctor sect was developing so well now, so he wanted to take the Divine Doctor sect away and didn't allow him to use the name of the Divine Doctor sect. Feng Tiangang has a rather explosive personality and values friendship, so he came to negotiate with Hua Shifang. As long as Hua Shifang can stop causing trouble for Elder Gu, he will naturally not make things difficult for them. But now that he met Nan Yan and heard her say these shameless words, his temper was immediately aroused. Did he tell you that? Nan Yan's tone was calm, without much anger. But the coldness on his body was rising. Hua Shifang and Sun Quan wanted to get angry when they saw Feng Tiangang targeting Nan Yan. Fu Yubai stopped them and shook his head secretly at them, indicating that they didn't need to take the lead. After all, it was enough to leave this kind of thing to the little junior sister alone. He had no power in the imperial capital, and his previous power was left in the Fu family. Otherwise, they would not be allowed to be so presumptuous in front of the master. But the little sister is different. She has many friends, and there is Qin Lu. You dare to do it, and don't let others say it, Feng Tiangang snorted coldly. At this point, what can you quibble about? In that case, then trouble you to come with me and confront Gu Bofan face to face. Nan Yan was too lazy to explain anything to him. In the final analysis, this matter was caused by Gu Bofan, and Feng Tiangang was also fooled by him. He didn't know the truth, so he came to trouble them. Master, second master, third brother, do you want to go together? Nolan didn't live in the courtyard, but only came here occasionally, so he was not here today. Of course Hua Shifang nodded lightly. Let's go, I want to see for myself, how shameless can Feng Zhenzi and Gu Bofan, two beasts, be. Hua Shanai had long regretted in his heart, why did he tolerate them for the sake of his fellow brothers and sisters? He should have cleared the Tiandi League for his master and expelled these termites. Outside, Wu Yu was still waiting for Nan Yan's order. As a result, Nan Yan came out with a group of people within a few minutes after entering. And he also knew Feng Tiangang in the crowd. Why is he here? Could it be that he came to cause trouble for Dr. Hua and the others? Thinking of this, he hurried over. Walking in front of Nan Yan, he whispered, Miss Nan, what's going on? Qin Xiu also knew him. After all, they were all well-known and prestigious people, and they would meet on some occasions. The Feng family was very powerful in the imperial capital, and the Feng family was not corrupt officials, especially Feng Lin, who had devoted his life to the country and the people. He was a rare good official who sincerely worked for the people. Feng Tiangang has now taken over the position of Feng Lao, and there has been no news of him embezzling or accepting bribes in recent years. He is quite respected. But thinking that he might be here to cause trouble, he quickly informed Qin Lu. She didn't care that Wu Yu was here. If there was really something, he could contact his eldest brother directly. Qin Xiu, brother, Feng Tiangang has brought people to trouble Master Yanyan, and they are very aggressive. Why don't you come over? After sending the message, she put away her phone and went to Nanyan. Nanyan said calmly, It's okay, I'm going to confront someone about some things. Miss Nan, do you need to notify the young master? Wu Yu reminded Nanyan implicitly of Feng Tiangong's identity. He is not easy to mess with. No, I abide by the law and have not done anything illegal. No matter how difficult he is, he can't arrest me. Nanyan said calmly. Wu Yu, that's right. A group of people marched towards the ancient medical clinic. Hashtag. Qin Lu saw the phone light up and glanced at it first. The caller ID was not Nanyan. He retracted his gaze and slowly finished the things he was dealing with before taking the phone over. Seeing the message sent by Qin Xiu, Qin Lu's expression froze slightly. Feng Tiangang, why would he go looking for trouble with Yanyan? He and Dr. Hua shouldn't have any intersection. And Wu Yu is with the little girl. If there is something wrong, Wu Yu will tell him. Qin Lu tapped on the screen and then sent a message to Qin Xiu, well, you follow Yanyan and notify me if there is anything. Qin Xiu. Is her elder brother stupid? Qin Xiu gritted her teeth and poked hard on the screen. This is such a good opportunity to gain favor in front of Master Yanyan. Are you sure you don't want to come? She had heard that Yanyan's master didn't like her brother. If her brother wanted to marry Yanyan, it was not enough to just pass the test of Yanyan's grandfather. Two masters were also two major obstacles. Qin Lu looked at the message sent by Qin Xiu, was silent for a moment, then stood up and picked up the car keys. Qin Lu, I'll be there soon. That's right. Qin Xiu showed a teachable look, secretly glanced at the expressionless Nan Yan, pulled the corner of her mouth, and put the phone away. Hashtag Ancient Medical Clinic. Feng Zhenzi and Gu Bofan were here, preparing for the opening. Gu Bofan was very satisfied with the magnificent decoration of the medical clinic. Without the calligraphy written by Hua Shifang himself, the decoration of the entire medical clinic has been upgraded. Humph, he should have discarded those dross a long time ago. What era is it now? Those old antique calligraphy and paintings are not worthy of being in a refined hall. Feng Zhenzi stroked his beard, looked around, and nodded, saying, after the new renovation, this clinic is indeed more impressive than before, and more worthy of our status. They are not a small clinic that treats ordinary people, but a miracle clinic that treats dignitaries and powerful people. They must improve their status. Feng Zhenzi sneered, since Hua Shifang is willing to treat ordinary people and poor people, let him go, but without the reputation of this miracle doctor, it is estimated that no powerful people will go there for treatment. We have been operating in the imperial capital for more than 10 years. He thinks that he can compete with us with his name alone. Gu Bofan looked arrogant, his medical skills are indeed better than mine, but now if you want fame, you can't just have medical skills to get it. With Hua Shifang's stubborn temper, he can't cure 100 ordinary people as well as he can cure a senior official. He was suppressed by Hua Shifang before, and now it's his turn to suppress him. Feng Zhenzi nodded, and then said with a worried look, there are still 2 days left. I don't know if Feng Tiangong's appearance will be of any use. Gu Bofan said proudly, no matter how good Hua Shifang's medical skills are, he is still an ordinary person. Do people want to fight officials? That's right. If they can't use the Divine Doctor sect, then they can't use Hua Shifang either. This is fair. Otherwise, why would they give them a wedding dress for nothing after running the old brand for more than 10 years? Wishful thinking. Feng Zhenzi, Gu Bofan, you two get out of here. A low shout full of energy made the two people who were complacent in the ancient medical clinic look at the same time. The two looked at each other. Why is he here? Is he here to fight with us? Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 425. Sun Chan's angry voice shocked the two people inside. Gu Bofan and Feng Zhenzi thought that he came here deliberately to fight because Hua Shifang could not open the miracle doctor's door, so they made up their minds and did not plan to go out. After all, they have been together for decades and know Sun Chan's temper well. Sun Chan has a stubborn temper and is stubborn in his stubbornness. Once he loses his temper, he will ignore it. They are not like him, a big boss, they are all respectable people, and they don't want to embarrass themselves by following him. After Sun Chan shouted outside, seeing that no one came out, he rolled up his sleeves and prepared to kick the door. Fu Yubai held him back. Uncle, please be careful. They are here to investigate, don't make it look like bandits coming to your door. This is too cheap. Sun Chan glanced at Hua Shifang and Nan Yan who looked calm over there, then looked at himself looking furious, and then silently put down his rolled up sleeves. As expected, the senior brother is still magnanimous. Being so angry with those two old guys Gu Bofan and Feng Zhenzi, he could still remain calm. He has to learn from his senior brother. Nan Yan tilted his head and looked at Feng Tiangang. Mr. Feng, since they won't come out, let's go in and confront them. Feng Tiangang nodded, yes. Gu Bofan and Feng Zhenzi were still listening to the situation outside, but they found that Sun Chan shouted, and then nothing happened. There was suspicion in his eyes. Could he have left? The two stood up and walked towards the door, wanting to look outside from the inside. As soon as they arrived at the door, the two closed doors suddenly opened, hitting the two of them directly in the face. Ah! The two of them screamed together. Elder Gu, how are you? Are you injured? Feng Tiangang walked in and saw Gu Bofan covering his face and screaming, and asked quickly. Gu Bofan's nose was so painful that acid water kept coming out. The expression is a bit ferocious. Seeing that it was Feng Tiangang, he held back his temper, endured the pain and shook his head. It's okay. Seeing that he was injured, Sun Quan felt very happy. He sneered and went inside. Gu Bai's hand covered his sore nose, looked at Hua Shifang and Nan Yan with a gloomy look, gritted his teeth and asked, "Why are you here?" He thought Sun Quan was the only one who came here to vent his frustration. In the end, why did Hua Shifang and Feng Tiangang come to him together? Inexplicably, there was an ominous premonition that made him nervous. "Elder Gu, I have already approached them for you. I said that the miracle medical sect is your independent trademark. If you don't allow them to use it, they can't use it. But if they don't approve of your words, they must confront you face to face." Feng Tiangang stared at him and asked in a deep voice, "What did you say?" Gu Bofan rubbed his nose and put his hand down, revealing his red nose. "You applied for the trademark of the miracle medical sect not long ago. Naturally, only I can use the right to use it. They don't have a registered trademark. If they use it, it will be an infringement." He had never had this concept before. This method happened because he happened to mention it to a young patient, and the patient reminded him. They didn't know how to apply for a trademark before. They just thought of a name and put up a brand. But now it is different from before. Now we are a society ruled by law, and everything is decided by the law. He couldn't use the name of the miraculous medical sect, and he didn't want Hua Shifang and the others to use it. Hua Shifang almost laughed angrily when he heard his shameless remarks. He asked in a cold voice, "Gu Bofan, do you dare to say that I did not create this miraculous medical school?" Gu Bofan made up his mind to carry forward his shamelessness to the end. "Senior brother Hua, didn't we jointly create this miraculous medical sect? When you wanted to build a medical clinic, I provided money and effort. However, my medical skills were not as good as yours, so at that time, the miraculous doctors sect assumed that you would be the frontman. Then you left the divine medical sect without even leaving a word, and disappeared from sight since then. You haven't come back once for more than 10 years. It's me and others who have been maintaining the divine medical sect to this day. Over the years, we have opened up the reputation of the miracle doctor sect, which is well known at home and abroad. Now that you see that the miracle doctor sect has become more influential, you first asked your apprentice to cause trouble, and now you have come back in person to take the miracle doctor from my hands. Don't you think you're going too far even if I'm not allowed to use the name divine doctor sect?" After Feng Tiangang heard what Gu Bofan said, his temper suddenly rose. He didn't know there was such a truth in it before. "You guys are really going too far." Hua Shifang was about to denounce Gu Bofan's nonsense when Nan Yan grabbed his arm and spoke first. "Everyone can tell what the truth is. If you just listen to one person's words, it will be biased. If we say it ourselves, you have already been biased towards the great elder, so I asked you to listen to what others have to say. When Mr. Feng finishes reading it, you will know who is the real master of the miracle doctor section." After Nan Yan finished speaking, Wu Yu consciously went to the car to get Nan Yan's laptop. As a qualified assistant, observing words and expressions is the most basic job. In less than a minute, he walked quickly and handed Nan Yan's notebook into her hands. Everyone's eyes in the room fell on Nan Yan. Gu Bofan and Feng Zhenzi could not imagine what evidence Nan Yan could find. After all, when the divine doctor's gate was just opened, Nan Yan hadn't spoken yet, and more than 20 years ago, China's internet was not as developed as it is now, and there were not many videos and photos. "Brother, what evidence can Yan Yan produce?" Sun Quan was also very curious. After all, neither he nor Hua Shifang could refute Gu Bofan's words. What he said, literally speaking, was true. But the truth is not what it seems on the surface. Hua Shifang looked at Nan Yan lovingly. "Wait a while, and you'll know what Yan Yan wants to do." He believed in his little apprentice. The little apprentice would never do anything without certainty. A few minutes later, Nan Yan turned the screen around, and there was a video playing on it. Wu Yu was very perceptive and went over to help Nan Yan hold the notebook, acting as a human-shaped stand. This is. Hua Shifang looked at the face on it, which he vaguely remembered, and looked at Nan Yan. Master, these are all the patients you have cured. Nan Yan explained, before, you left the secular world in a rage because you were disappointed with your master and the elders. Now that you have returned, I hope these videos can give you a reason to stay again. She didn't want Hua Shifang to be alone again, returning to Shenangjia to avoid the world because of disappointment. This was prepared before. I wanted to show it to you when the Divine Doctor sect reopened. Now it is just right to use it as evidence. Hua Shifang sighed with relief. Yan Yan, you are thoughtful. Feng Tiangang and others' eyes were on the screen. There is not only one video, but several more in the back, where patients who were treated by Hua Shifang in those years expressed their gratitude to Hua Shifang. But there is no proof that the Divine Doctor sect belongs only to Hua Shifang. Gu Bofan and Feng Zhenzi breathed a sigh of relief and began to attack. These don't prove anything, right? What kind of evidence is this? Nan Yan glanced at him indifferently. Why are you in such a hurry? Let's see what's next. The poor people who had been treated by Hua Shifang, and many people who had made a name for themselves, and many people who were influenced by him, chose to become angels in white. Then came the videos of those who became doctors. After playing these videos, they finally got the important evidence. When she came to Gu Bofan and Feng Zhenzi to ask for the Divine Doctor sect, they personally admitted that the Divine Doctor sect belonged to Hua Shifang. In the video, in addition to them, there were also people from the Chinese Medicine Alliance. Feng Tiangang had originally trusted Gu Bofan wholeheartedly, but after seeing these videos, he couldn't help but doubt it. After Nan Yan played this video, she tapped her fingers on the keyboard and closed the video. A pair of cold eyes glared at the two of them, with full aura, directly controlling the situation. The Divine Doctor sect was founded by my master, Divine Doctor Hua. You, at first, were not optimistic about it, but for the sake of your fellow disciples, you gave the master a little help to build the clinic. Later, you found out that the master always treated patients for free, and you quarreled with him about it. Later, the reputation of the Divine Doctor sect was spread by the master, and patients began to come to the clinic because of the reputation. Among them, there were many rich people who were willing to pay any price for treatment. You charged them high medical fees and started to stay in the clinic to receive rich patients, while those ordinary patients who had no money were driven away by you. In order to prevent the master from wasting his time on treating ordinary people, you even deliberately lied to him, making him busy all the time and accepting your arrangements to treat those who paid high medical fees. Guangairan. The reason why master left is that you, a bunch of greedy people, turned the Divine Doctor sect he founded into such a mercenary state that only recognizes money to treat people. He was disappointed and chose to retreat from the world. Do you dare to deny this? Gu Bofan's old face turned pale, and he argued, we run a clinic, don't the medicines cost money? Besides, isn't it natural to pay for medical treatment? Feng Zhenzi and Gu Bofan are completely on the same front, and also refuted, aren't hospitals now for profit? Can you go to the hospital to see a doctor without paying? The hospital can do it, but our clinic can't. Chinese medicinal materials are more expensive than Western medicine. What's wrong with us asking for medical fees? As soon as this was said, Feng Tiangong's face finally changed. Nan Yan glanced at his face, stretched out her hand and tapped on the keyboard again, and another video was played again. This is the video of Gu Bofan and Feng Zhenzi making a bet with her. Gu Bofan and Feng Zhenzi couldn't help but panic when they saw the video she played this time, and wanted to smash Nan Yan's laptop. If those things were seen by Feng Tiangang, they would be finished. Unfortunately, with so many people around, they were held down by Fu Yubai and Feng Tiangang before they could reach the laptop. Gu Bofan said anxiously, "Mr. Feng, this is a conflict within our clinic, you don't need to intervene, go back." Feng Tiangang saw the panic in his eyes, and then looked up and saw the indifference in Nan Yan's eyes, and said in a light voice, "If this matter is not resolved, I can't go back to report to my old man." Gu Bofan. Agreed betting chips, the video of Gu Bofan and Feng Zhenzi calling the fifth elder, tampering with the medicine pot, signing on the spot, handing over the management rights of the Divine Doctor sect to Nan Yan, and breaking the contract without keeping his word. Scenes played slowly and steadily. The expressions of Gu Bofan and Feng Zhenzi became increasingly ugly, and in the end, their expressions were almost distorted. When all the videos were played, Nan Yan looked directly at Feng Tiangang and said lightly, "Mr. Feng, the contracts they signed with me are all in my hands, but I don't have them with me. If you want to see them, I'll ask someone to get them now. Go get them." Feng Tiangong's face was about to be expressed as gloomy. He has always respected Gu Bofan. In addition to the fact that he saved his old man, there is another reason, that is, the Divine Doctor sect saves people and the doctor has a kind heart. As a result, when he knew Gu Bofan's selfish behavior, his good impression of Gu Bofan had fallen to the bottom. Lan Yan put all the contracts signed by Gu Bofan in Sun Chan's courtyard. Fu Yubai knew where they were, so he went back to get them. Qin Ye was angry for Hua Shifang and Nan Yan, and her cell phone rang. She took it out and saw that it was a message from her eldest brother. "Qin Lu, is the matter resolved?" Qin Ye looked up at the situation in the room, thought about it, and replied, "It's almost done. Yanyan turned the tide. I guess you came here to watch the show, there is no place for you to use your skills. Her sister-in-law is too strong, she is not the same as ordinary women. It seems that it is a bit difficult to make the eldest brother have a good impression in front of Mr. Hua and Mr. Sunday." Qin Lu, okay. Qin Shiu, what's good, you're not coming. So, she said it in vain? Qin Lu, I'll wait for you outside, I won't go in. Qin Shiu. The eldest brother is here. She stretched her neck to look outside. Sure enough, she saw his car. But since the eldest brother is here, why doesn't he come in? Could it be that he really feels that he has no place to use his skills, so he doesn't want to come? Qin Shiu, brother, what are you doing? Even if Yanyan can do it alone, you can also show your face if you come. It's true that the emperor is not anxious, but the eunuch is. She is so anxious to make her elder brother look good in front of Master Yanyan. Qin Lu, no need. After replying these two words, Qin Lu put his mobile phone aside, took out a cigarette from the cigarette box and lit it. Through the car window, he looked at the ancient medical clinic. If she can solve it, then he doesn't need to show up. He just needs to show up when she needs him. It's not appropriate for him to show up suddenly in this situation. Fu Yubai brought all the contracts signed by Nan Yan and them. After Feng Tiangang read them one by one, his face was as cold as water. "Elder Gu, do you have anything else to say?" Gu Bofan intuitively felt that things were different from what they expected. Facing Feng Tiangong's angry questioning, he wanted to forcibly save some goodwill. "I did something wrong before. Senior brother Hua wants to open a miracle doctor clinic, then open it, I won't stop it." He was so upset that his intestines were about to turn green. If he had known that this would be the result, he would rather keep the favor from the Feng family and not let Feng Tiangang help. Feng Tiangang said coldly, "There are problems with the procedures of the ancient medical clinic, so don't open it for the time being." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 426. Feng Tiangang said coldly, "There is a problem with the procedures of the ancient medical clinic, so we should not open it for the time being." His words confused both Gu Bofan and Feng Zhenzi. Originally, they wanted to make it impossible for the miracle medical sect to open. How come it is now impossible for them to open? "Mr. Feng, what do you mean?" Feng Tiangang said solemnly, "The ancient medical clinic has many problems and does not comply with the operating standards. The previous procedures are invalid. Mr. Feng, have you forgotten that if it weren't for me, Mr. Feng's life would not have been saved?" After Gu Bofan said these words, he suddenly realized that he regretted saying such words in a hurry. When he said this, it was estimated that the Feng family's network would be blocked. But after the words were spoken, it was too late for him to make amends. When Elder Gu was asked to rescue the old man in the family, was the medical fee given by the Feng family still too small? Elder Gu's appetite was probably too big. "Since you said that you opened the medical clinic for the purpose of making a profit, then my Feng family paid for the consultation fee, and you cured the old man. We are in a clear relationship and do not owe each other. Is there anything wrong?" Feng Tiangang used Gu Bofan's words to block him. It also made him speechless. "Yes," he said it so clearly and made it clear that he only cares about profit. If the patient has paid for the medical treatment, how can he have the face to ask for favors? I'm afraid that even if he wanted to force the favor now, Feng Tiangang wouldn't give it to him. It's all over. Nanyan's fate towards Gu Bofan and the two of them didn't have many emotional fluctuations. However, Feng Tiangang's reaction was indeed a bit beyond her expectation. "At first, I thought he didn't know right from wrong and was being taken advantage of, but now it seems that he has a bottom line as a human being. Master, second master, let's go. They have nothing to do here, and there is no point in staying here." "Well, go back." Hua Shifang pretended not to see the looks Gu Bofan and Feng Zhenzi were looking at him, and walked out without looking back. Sun Quan saw their hesitant expressions and mocked coldly, "With elders like you two, the Heaven and Earth Alliance is not far away from decline." Hua Shifang and Sun Quan left the Heaven and Earth Alliance in anger after they had a big fight with them when they returned to their master's school last time. Originally, Hua Shifang wanted to clear out the Heaven and Earth Alliance and bring the Heaven and Earth Alliance back on track. Unfortunately, the TND Alliance is not corrupted by one or two people, but from the inside out. Almost the entire sect is lost to money and power, and there is no need to save it at all. Therefore, he and Sun Quan announced on the spot that they were leaving the Heaven and Earth Alliance and would no longer be members of the Heaven and Earth Alliance. The elders of the TND Alliance do not care whether Hua Shifang breaks away. After all, he had a bad temper and could just leave without saying a word for more than 10 years without even sending a letter back. "Even if I come back now, I might leave again one day." They don't want Sun Quan to leave. Sun Quan controls the Baiko Garden. The value of the medicinal materials in the Baiko Garden cannot be measured in terms of money. Simply priceless. How could they let Sun Quan take Baiko Garden away from the Heaven and Earth Alliance? Almost all of the current expenses of the TND Alliance come from the Divine Doctor sect and Baiko Garden. Now that the Divine Doctor sect is wanted back by Hua Shifang, Gu Bofan, and the others can only reopen the ancient medical clinic. The name Miracle Medical Sect is not necessary, but the medicinal materials are something that must be used. If Baiko Garden is separated from the Heaven and Earth Alliance, it will probably be a lot more difficult for them to get medicinal materials in the future. However, no matter how the people of the Presbyterian Council tried to stop him, Sun Quan left forcefully after receiving support from Hua Shifang. After all, Bai Zi, the guardian spirit beast of Baikatang, only recognized him, and others could not enter the small medicine garden at all. Gu Bofan and Feng Zhenzi watched them leave, with only one thought in their minds. Their future life may be very difficult. Hashtag Guys, please stay. After exiting the ancient medical center, Feng Tiangang strode up to Hua Shifang and the others. I'm sorry that I didn't find out what happened this time. I apologize to you for this. After Feng Tiangang saw those videos, he had a new understanding of Hua Shifang and sincerely respected him. China is lucky to have such doctors. He almost made it impossible for miracle Dr. Hua to reopen his door because of Gu Bofan and the others' deception and use. It's really inappropriate. Nan Yan looked at the familiar car parked on the roadside, said something to Hua Shifang and Sun Chan, and walked directly to the car. Hua Shifang guessed who was in the car and wanted to follow him to prevent the big bad wolf from taking away his little apprentice. But Feng Tiangang was standing in front of him, so he couldn't leave directly, so he waved his hand and said indifferently, "It's okay, Mr. Feng is not a person who doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. He just didn't know the truth before. I don't blame you for this." The words Sun Chan wanted to curse were all written on his face. Fortunately, Fu Yubai was there to hold him back. Feng Tiangang actually wanted to talk to him more, but seeing that they didn't seem to want to tell him too much, he sighed and said, "Mr. Hua, if you need anything in the future, just ask, Feng will definitely do your best." "Yeah, I'm interested." After Hua Shifang answered, he saw Feng Tiangang still standing there and frowned, "Do you have anything else?" Feng Tiangang was a little embarrassed by the question and quickly got out of the way, "Please." Hua Shifang walked towards Nan Yan without even looking at him. Qin Lu in the car saw Nan Yan walking towards him, opened the door and got out of the car. The corners of Nan Yan's lips raised slightly, and she changed her previous indifferent expression and smiled slightly, "Why are you here?" Qin Lu stretched out his hand to pinch her little face and joked, "I said I was passing by, are you okay with that?" Nan Yan. Her IQ seems to be so fooled. Nan Yan twitched the corners of his lips, and then nodded seriously, "If you tell me, I'll believe it." Just, cute. Boss Jean had some bad thoughts inexplicably, but he suppressed those bad thoughts ruthlessly. After giving an endearing smile, he asked warmly, "You're not being bullied, are you?" Although I believe in her ability, my concern for her will not decrease just because of her strength. Am I that useless? Nan Yan's tone was a bit arrogant, and she raised her eyebrows arrogantly, "It's not easy to deal with them." "Well, Yanyan is the most powerful." Nan Yan heard his coaxing tone, remained silent for a moment, and changed the subject, "Aren't you busy in your company?" Qin Lu considered the voiceover of her question and said calmly, "Not too busy." From the corner of her eye, Nan Yan saw Hua Shifang and Sun Chan walking towards them, and whispered, "Then bribe my two masters." The two masters were very unkind to her boyfriend. What could she do? She could only help her boyfriend to please the two masters. Two masters cannot be forced to accept him. Qin Lu instead held Nan Yan's hand, turned sideways, and nodded to Hua Shifang and Sun Chan, "Mr. Hua, Mr. Sunday." Hua Shifang frowned slightly, especially after seeing Qin Lu boldly holding his precious disciple's little hand in front of them. He asked unhappily, "What are you doing here?" Nan Yan blinked and said with an obedient expression, "Master, this is not the place to talk. Let's go back to second master first." Hua Shifang glanced at Nan Yan, who had already turned his attention to Qin Lu, and blew on his beard, "Go back to the courtyard first. Xiu, let Wu Yu take you home first." Qin Xiu originally thought that she could follow him to the courtyard, but Qin Lu drove her back with just one word. "Annoying." Qin Xiu pouted unhappily. Qin Lu glanced at her indifferently. She subconsciously felt a chill on her back and said obediently, "I understand." Tyrant. Seeing her unhappiness, Nan Yan said, "Xiu wants to go to the courtyard, so let's go together. Let Wu Yu go back to the company first, and then we'll go back together." Qin Xiu immediately changed her unhappy expression and hugged Nan Yan's other arm with a smile, "Yeah, Yan Yan is the best. Hashtag. Chinchinch. And Yeo King's leg has been in the hospital for nearly a month, and there is no serious problem. Seeing that he was fine, Lulahua planned to go through the discharge procedures for him and let him return to Angia to recuperate. After discussing it with him, she went to see the dean and prepared to leave the hospital this afternoon. Not 2 minutes after Lulahua left, a woman wearing a mask and sunglasses entered Anyeoking's ward. "Why are you here again?" When Anyeoking saw her, his face became gloomy. He subconsciously lowered his voice and said sternly, "Didn't I tell you not to come to the hospital again?" Tao Sisi took off her glasses and mask, revealing the injuries on her face. "Boss, I won't survive. If you don't save me, our mother and daughter will be beaten to death." When Anyeoking saw the injury on Tao Sisi's face, his displeasure at being disobedient to her and coming to him without permission disappeared instantly. "What's going on?" Tao Sisi is his lover and female secretary who was raised outside. The two have been secretly together for more than 10 years. Tao Sisi also gave birth to a daughter for him, and he has feelings for her. Over the years, he had made excuses to go on business trips countless times. In fact, he always went to find her and hide from Lulahua. The three of them were enjoying themselves together. Lele was scolded at school. She came back to me crying, saying that some children scolded her for not having a father and that she was a fatherless bastard. I was so angry that I went to the school and argued with the child's parents, but they turned out to be unreasonable. I just said a few words to him, and he started to hit me. Tao Sisi is 28 this year, which is the best time for a woman. She is beautiful, has a good figure, and has a sense of humor. Compared with Lulahua, who is rigid, boring, and has many things to do, she is just like Ji Yahua, who knows how to handle things best. A man's heart and emotions. Sure enough, when she cried, Anyeoking became furious and felt heartbroken. Who is the other party? I'll have someone deal with him. I heard from Lele's teacher that he seems to be a high-ranking official with great power. I don't want you to go to him for trouble for me. I came to you this time to ask you to transfer Lele to another school." Tao Sisi lowered her head, her voice choked. "Lele is very resistant to going to school now. She cries when she is told to go to school. I haven't let her go to school these days. I stay with her at home, but she wants to see you very much. I want you to comfort her." And Yeoking was silent for a while and then said, "I'm injured now and can't move freely. When my legs get better, I'll go see her. When I get back, you can ask Lele to video chat with me and I'll coax her." Tao Sisi nodded. "Yeah. You go first, Lahua should be back soon, don't let her see you." And Yeoking has been doing both ends for so many years. Tao Sisi's identity as female secretary has provided him with a lot of conveniences. He has long been tired of Lulahua, but he has never thought of divorcing her. After all, Lulahua and he have 4 sons, and with the presence of a father-in-law as virtuous and respected as Mr. Lu, it is of great help to him. Besides, although Tao Sisi is young and beautiful, she has no background and no temperament of a celebrity, so she can only be kept as a lover. Tao Sisi gritted her teeth. She knew that Anyeoking had never thought of marrying her. But for her daughter and for her own future as a wealthy wife, she was unwilling to be his lover who could not see the light of day. "Can I stay with you for 2 more minutes? When you are discharged from the hospital and go home, I will not be able to see you again. Seeing you lying on the hospital bed, I can't serve you personally. I really feel so uncomfortable. I also want to take care of you when you are sick and uncomfortable like ordinary couples, but I don't have this opportunity." Tao Sisi's tender and sweet speech made Anyeoking soften his heart. Anyeoking sighed, "Sisi, I'm sorry, I made you feel wronged." "I don't feel wronged. As long as I can be with you, I'm willing to do it even if I can't see the light of day for the rest of my life." Tao Sisi said, and rushed to the bedside with some excitement, then lowered her head and kissed Yeoking on the mouth. Yeoking felt sorry for her, so he didn't push her away, and put his arms around her neck to respond to her kiss. Yeoking, I've already talked to the dean, what are you doing? As Lulahua was talking, he pushed the door open from outside and saw the scene in front of him, and he was stunned. Yeoking quickly pushed Tao Sisi away and said in panic, Lahua, listen to my explanation, it's not what you see. Yeoking. Lulahua was shaking all over, her face was pale, she pointed at Tao Sisi and shouted at the top of her lungs, who is she? When did you and her fool around together? Lahua, don't shout, it's not what you think, listen to my explanation. I saw you two hugging and kissing each other, it's not like this, what is it like? Yeoking, I didn't expect you to cheat, are you worthy of me? Lulahua was completely crazy, she threw the bag in her hand, went up and slapped Tao Sisi twice, then grabbed her hair and beat her with her hands and feet, there was no sign of a lady, the whole person was like crazy. Tao Sisi screamed miserably. Yeoking had injured his leg and could only sit on the hospital bed and watch Lulahua beat Tao Sisi like a madman. He couldn't help but shout, Lahua, stop it first, don't hit her. You are still protecting this bitch, I will beat her to death today, this bitch who seduced a married man. Boss, it hurts, boss, save me. Tao Sisi covered her face and screamed miserably. Yeoking was anxious and could not help. Finally, he saw the crutches at the head of the bed, which made it convenient for him to get out of bed and go to the bathroom. In a hurry, he picked up the crutches and hit Lulahua. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 427. Tao Sisi covered her face and screamed. Yeoking picked up the cane and put it directly on Lulahua in a hurry. Lulahua was completely stunned. Yeoking actually dared to hit her. In order to protect that bitch, he dared to fight with her. After Yeoking started to fight, he realized what he had done. He quickly threw the cane in his hand and apologized to her, Lahua, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Can we sit down and talk about it? Yeoking, I want to divorce you. Lulahua left a word and ran out crying. Lahua, Lahua. Yeoking wanted to call Lulahua. But he had an injury on his leg and couldn't get out of bed. After calling for a long time, Lulahua didn't even turn his head. Tao Sisi covered the place on her face that was hit by Lulahua, with a smug smile in her eyes. Finally, she didn't have to be Yeoking's lover anymore, and she could be open and above board. When Lulahua and Yeoking divorce, she can marry him legitimately. She will no longer be a mistress who is looked down upon by others, but the wife of the family. She has waited for this day for so many years, and finally it has come. Tao Sisi deliberately came so many times when Yeoking was hospitalized, just to let Lulahua catch her and Yeoking having an affair. She failed so many times, but she didn't expect that this last time, she would actually bump into the intimate scene between the two of them, and Yeoking's cooperation was better than she thought. This time, she didn't believe that Lulahua could forgive him. Yeoking was anxious, afraid that Lulahua would go back and tell Old Man and Old Man Lu nonsense, and he wanted to blame Tao Sisi. But seeing Tao Sisi being beaten so miserably by Lulahua, he could not say anything to blame her, and finally he could only say, Sisi, you go back first, take your daughter and leave Jinjinj immediately, and hide outside first. Tao Sisi's eyes were filled with tears, and her face was full of guilt. Boss, have I caused trouble? Will the wife make trouble with you? Yeoking. Is she blind? Lulahua was so angry that she wanted to divorce him. This matter is probably not so easy to solve. But now he has no time to explain so much to her, and said in a deep voice, you go back first, don't worry about other things. I know, I will take Lele to another city to hide now, and we will come back when the wife is not angry anymore. Leave. Impossible. She finally waited until the incident happened beforehand, and she was still waiting for Lulahua to find the media to expose her. In this way, she and Lele were pushed in front of the media, and even if Anyeoking wanted to suppress them again, it would be useless. Tao Sisi agreed obediently in front of Anyeoking, put on sunglasses and a mask, hid the excitement in her eyes, and hurried out. After Anyeoking left, he quickly called Hisai. "Dad, what did you say?" Hisai listened to him on the phone, his face full of disbelief. "I just made a mistake that all men would make. Please persuade your mother to stop her from telling your grandfather and grandfather. Go and stop her, and then ask Si Ting to come to the hospital and take me back. I will apologize to your mother in person." Anyeoking was also upset. Successful people like him, which one of them doesn't have a wife at home and a few mistresses outside? Some even know the existence of the mistress at home, but they are still happy and harmonious, and even the wife and the mistress have become sisters. He knew that Lulahua couldn't accept it, so he had been hiding it from her and never dared to show it in front of her. As a result, he was injured this time, and she and Tao Sisi met. Hisai pinched his brows, not knowing what to say to Anyeoking. It's not appropriate to scold him. After all, this is his father. But what he did really deserves to be scolded. "I'll go back to see my mother first, and let Si Ting pick you up." Hisai really didn't want Lulahua to go to his grandpa and grandfather. If this matter got out of hand, it would only make people laugh at it, and then both the An family and the Lu family would lose face. Anyeoking hung up the phone and called Sci Ting again, asking him to come and pick him up. Hashtag. On the other side, Lulahua did not return to the An family, but went directly to the An family's old house. As soon as she entered the door, she cried angrily, "Dad, Anyeoking is raising a mistress outside, and he beat me for the mistress. I want to divorce him, divorce immediately." In the living room, Grandpa An and Grandpa Lu were playing chess. During this period, the two old men had a common topic, praising Nanyang, so they often chatted and played chess together. Lulahua's voice shocked the two old men. Lulahua, who always pays attention to her image, has her hair disheveled at this time, and there is a wound on her face that Tao Sisi scratched when she was struggling. The wound has stopped bleeding now, but the blood scabs and blood stains are all on her face, making her look very embarrassed. "Lahua, what did you say?" The chess piece in Grandpa An's hand fell on the chessboard. "What did Anyeoking do?" "Today I was going to handle the discharge procedures for him. I went to see the dean, and then his mistress came. After I finished the discharge procedures and returned to the ward, he was hugging and kissing the mistress. I beat the mistress, and Anyeoking picked up the walking stick on the bedside and beat me. I can't live with him anymore." Lulahua cried loudly, crying in pain. She had never suffered such humiliation in her life. She always thought she married a good man, and the sisters around her envied their good relationship. "I didn't expect that he had been keeping a mistress behind her back, and even let her run to her to show off. Anyeoking is going to force her to death." Although Mr. Lu has a lot of complaints about Lulahua's attitude towards Nanyang, she is his daughter after all, and the sweetheart he used to hold in his palm. Now that Anyeoking is bullying him like this, how can he bear it? "Did Anyeoking really do this to you?" "Dad, my lower back is still burning now. If you don't believe me, just take a look for yourself." Lulahua took off her coat and lifted the hem of her clothes to reveal her waistline. Anyeoking hit her hard, and now her lower back is blue and red, and it is swollen. Mr. Lu was furious. "Go home with Dad, we must divorce." "Old Lu, calm down. If that bastard really does this, I won't let him off easily, but the two children have lived for most of their lives and are over 50 years old. It would be a joke to divorce them." Mr. N had a splitting headache, and even his heart felt a dull pain. He endured the discomfort and comforted the father and daughter of the Lu family. He drove An Yeoking out and wanted to break off relations with him, but how could he ignore such a thing? "Dad, I have been married to An Yeoking for nearly 30 years, and I have treated him wholeheartedly. I have given birth to 4 sons and a daughter for your An family. He is still raising a mistress outside. Is he worthy of me? Now, whenever I think of him sleeping with other women, I feel that he is dirty and disgusting. I can't face him anymore. I must divorce this marriage." Lulahua is arrogant and proud, and influenced by her family education. She is very noble. An Yeoking humiliated her like this, and she wants to kill him now. It's impossible for her to continue living with him. Go home with Dad first. After you calm down, think about this carefully and decide whether to divorce him. Mr. Lu was about to take Lulahua back to the Lu family. Mr. An wanted to stop him, but he suddenly became angry and couldn't bear it. He barely stood up and fell to the ground. This scene scared Mr. Lu and Lulahua. Mr. Lu hurried to see him and found that there was blood on his lips and he had fainted. He was so shocked that he shouted, "Mr. An? Mr. An?" Lulahua was so shocked that he had no time to think about An Yeoking's cheating. He called Mr. An. Qin Ye was outside and heard the panic inside and ran in quickly. "What's going on?" Qin Ye's face changed when he saw Mr. An lying on the ground. He ran to Mr. An's bedroom, took the life-saving medicine left by Nan Yan, and stuffed it into his mouth. Then he picked him up and ran out. "Send him to the hospital." An's Hisai arrived a step late and saw only a chaotic scene. Qin Ye was putting Grandpa An into the car. "What happened to Grandpa?" "Grandpa Lu, your father was angry with him. He was so angry. Send him to the hospital." "Yes." Hashtag. First hospital. Grandpa An was pushed directly into the emergency room, and a group of people were waiting outside. An Siding originally came to pick up An Yeoking from the hospital, but he also came when he knew that the old man was being rescued. As for An Yeoking, he was afraid of seeing Lulahua and Grandpa Lu being beaten, and his legs were inconvenient, so he waited in the ward. More than an hour later, An Mulin and An Ziran also rushed over. An Ziran asked anxiously, "How is Grandpa?" Warm tips: if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter report error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. An's Hisai frowned. He is still in the rescue. I don't know how it is. An Ziran asked in a deep voice, "Grandpa's body has basically recovered under Yanyan's conditioning recently. How could he suddenly be critically ill?" "It's because of your father." Lulahua's tone was full of resentment. After Grandpa An was sent to the emergency room, she remembered An Yeoking's betrayal again. She was sad, but more of hatred. An Ziran and An Mulin didn't know that An Yeoking had cheated on her, which was a bit inexplicable. Why did my father make Grandpa so angry? Grandpa now wishes he didn't have a son like Dad. He doesn't even let him enter the old house. During the time when Dad was recovering from his injury, he didn't come again except for the day of the operation. Where does the old man get so generous? Your dad cheated on his wife and had a mistress. Lahua. Grandpa Lu scolded her. No matter what, family disgrace should not be made public. Now that Grandpa An is like this again, it is not appropriate to mention this matter for the time being. Lulahua's voice was sharp, and his whole body was shaking with anger. Dad, he can do it, why can't I say it? Not only will I tell my sons, but I will also let the media report it, so that everyone in the country will know how shameless he is, An Yeoking. An Ziran /U0026 An Mulin. What they heard, is it true? Looking at An's Hisai nodded with helplessness and embarrassment on his face. So, it was really their father who had a mistress? Anziran confirmed the scandal and just sneered at it. He didn't stay in this family for a long time. When he was 10 years old, he went abroad. After returning to China, he encountered Nan Yan's incident again. He had accumulated too much disappointment towards An Yeoking and Lu Lihua, the couple. Therefore, he had no feelings other than mocking his parents' divorce. What he was most worried about now was Grandpa An. Yan Yan cared so much about Grandpa. If Grandpa was in trouble, how sad she would be. Anziran turned and walked out. Others didn't notice it, but An Mulin saw it, and he hurriedly followed. Turning the corner, Anziran took out his mobile phone and called Nan Yan. Nan Yan was in the courtyard at this time, trying to show favor to Qin De Lao in front of the two masters. When he heard the phone ring, he took it out and answered it. "Fourth brother, what's wrong?" Anziran pursed his lips and said in a deep voice, "Yan Yan, Grandpa is in trouble." The expression on Nan Yan's face disappeared instantly. "What's going on?" It should be that the emotions were stimulated, causing the person to be angry and unconscious. "He is now in the first hospital for rescue. I'll go there right away." Nan Yan didn't dare to wait for the news. She was afraid that she would be too late, and if Grandpa An really got into trouble, she would not even have time to regret. After hanging up the phone, she said directly to Hua Shifang, "Master, my grandfather got into trouble, please come with me to Jinchinj." Hua Shifang nodded, "Okay." Knowing that the situation was urgent, Qin Lu rubbed Nan Yan's head to comfort her, and said softly, "I will dispatch a special plane to take you there." Yes. Hashtag. In an emergency, Qin Lu personally flew the plane. It would have taken 3 or 4 hours to reach the first hospital, but Qin Lu took only more than an hour to reach the first hospital. The plane hovered on the roof of the outpatient building, and the pilot took over the control of the plane. They went down the ladder to the roof directly, and then took the elevator on the roof to go directly to the emergency room. On the way, Tao Qingming had already called Nan Yan. Grandpa An's condition was very dangerous, and he was not sure he could save him, so he asked her to go back to save people. When they were about to reach Jinchinj, all the examination results of Grandpa An had been sent to her mobile phone. After reading the results, Nan Yan had a general understanding of Mr. N's condition, and told Hua Shifang about it. When they arrived at the emergency room, Tao Qingming, who had been waiting outside in advance, saw the two coming and quickly let them in. After entering the emergency room, Tao Qingming looked at Hua Shifang and suddenly reacted, Hua Divine Doctor. You are, Hua Divine Doctor. Hua Shifang frowned slightly, forget about Divine Doctor, call me Hua's Hongai. He didn't think he was a Divine Doctor, although he named his clinic Divine Doctor Gate and outsiders also called him that. But he knew Tao Qingming's identity, so in front of him, he didn't want the other party to think too highly of his identity. Everyone just needs to communicate on an equal footing. Tao Qingming. He saw the living Divine Doctor Hua. So excited. But considering that it was not suitable to be excited now, he had to find a way to save Mr. N first, so he suppressed his excited soul tightly. Mr. N was still lying on the operating table. The doctors of the first hospital followed Tao Qingming's instructions and tried their best to stabilize his vital signs until Nan Yan and the others came over. After Nan Yan and Hua Shifang washed their hands and disinfected them, they took over the doctor's position and began to treat Mr. N. Hashtag. Outside the emergency room, Mr. Lu and Anziran felt a little relieved when they saw Nan Yan coming. Both of them knew Nan Yan's medical skills and subconsciously believed that as long as Nan Yan was there, Mr. N would never get into trouble. Qin Lu, Sun Chan, and Fu Yubai also came with them. Sun Chan and Fu Yubai were not familiar with the others, and their personalities were not the kind of people who would take the initiative to talk, so they sat aside and waited quietly for Nan Yan and Hua Shifang to come out. Qin Lu greeted Mr. Lu and stood beside him. Qin Lu, has Yanyan finished the independent enrollment exam at Imperial University? Yes, she happened to take it today. What was the result? Did she pass? Qin Lu said leisurely, she got full marks in all subjects in the independent enrollment exam at Imperial University. It is said that the deans of several departments at Imperial University fought for Yanyan. He and Mr. Lu didn't talk loudly, but now it was quiet outside the emergency room and no one was talking, so everyone heard it. Anziran and Anmulin couldn't help but feel proud and happy for Nanyan. What a great honor it is to be fought over by the deans of several major departments at Imperial University. Although Nanyan didn't take the college entrance examination, she won the first place in the independent enrollment, which is no worse than the honor of the National College Entrance Examination champion. My little sister is really excellent. Anziran couldn't help but sigh. He had expected that when this news was released, Nanyan would definitely cause a sensation again. But he thought the biggest possibility was that Imperial University hid Nanyan's score and didn't announce it as a secret talent training. Whether it is announced or not, he plans to hold a celebration banquet for Nanyan after his grandfather is out of danger. While Mr. Lu was relieved, he also felt helpless. It seems that his plan to let Nanyan learn art from him is completely hopeless. Lu Lahua listened to Mr. Lu and Qin Lu praising Nanyan, and Anziran and Anmulin also praising Nanyan. Even Hisai and Ansiding seemed to be talking about Nanyan in a low voice, and she clenched her palms tightly. If she had been nicer to Nanyan, would she be able to brag to others about how good Nanyan is now? Seeing Nanyan becoming more and more outstanding, so outstanding that she was shocked, Lu Lahua felt a little uncomfortable. She had given up her daughter, a daughter with whom she had an extremely bad relationship, and the deans of the Imperial University were fighting for her. She also knew medical skills and won the championship of the National Youth Computer Competition. Lu Lahua regretted it, but she was more resentful. Since she was so outstanding, why did she show it when she returned to the An family? If she had known that she was so outstanding, she would definitely care about her more. So, it was all her fault. Lu Lahua's stimulated mind had long been a little distorted. Now she is full of malice towards everyone, and she hates everyone. At this moment, her mobile phone rang. Caller ID, Yao Yao. Lu Lahua barely regained some of her rationality, looked up at other people, and took her mobile phone to the side to answer the call. Yao Yao, why did you call your mother? Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 428. Nwao is at Jinjinj International Airport at this time. Different from when she was driven out in embarrassment half a year ago, Nwao now no longer looks down and out in embarrassment, but instead is arrogant and domineering. The person she is now is not the person she was then. This time she came back to make that bitch Nanyan pay the price. She took off the sunglasses on her face, raised her lips with flaming red lips into a proud and confident smile, and said to Lu Lahua on the phone, "Mom, I'm at the airport, where are you? Send someone to pick me up." Just for a moment. When Nwao was abandoned by her family and kicked out of Jinjinj, she felt hatred in her heart. Sooner or later, she will come back in a better state, letting those who have given up on her and those who have laughed at her see that she is countless times stronger than that bitch Nanyan. Are you back to Jinjinj? Lu Lahua was in a complicated and sad mood now, but the return of her favorite daughter made her still feel a little happy. The sons are all precocious and independent at an early age. They have been studying outside or working hard outside. The only one who has always been with her is Nwao. Even though she is not her biological daughter, she still has the deepest feelings for her. Even her biological sons were not as important as Nwao's weight in her heart. Now that she knew Nyaoking had cheated on her, she wanted a divorce. She also knew that if she divorced, none of her sons would leave with her. After all, they are all grown up. One starts a company and the other works at ends. Her divorce from An Yeoking probably won't have any impact on their future life plans. The only one who will stay by her side is An Weio. Thinking of this, she quickly said, "Wait for Mom where you are. Mom will pick you up right now. She only has Yao Yao, and she must not be allowed to leave her again. This time, no matter what, she will protect her well and not allow anyone to bully her again." As for Nanyan, the relationship between them had already deteriorated to that point, and she couldn't bear to apologize to her daughter and ask for forgiveness. Nwao came back again, and her attention was directly diverted from Nanyan. Nwao agreed, but when she heard something was wrong with Lulahua's voice, she asked again, "Mom, why is your voice hoarse? Do you have a cold?" Her daughter's words of concern almost made Lulahua shed tears again. She choked and suppressed the urge to cry and said, "Yao Yao, something big happened at home. I will tell you when I meet my mother. Wait for Mom at the airport. Mom will pick you up right away." After saying that, she hung up the phone and asked Inciting to accompany her to pick up Nwao, regardless of Mr. N who was still inside rescuing him. Inciting frowned, looked up at the emergency room, then at Lulahua, and finally nodded, "Let's go." Hashtag. At the airport, Nwao ended the call with Lulahua and made another call. After the other party answered, her tone instantly became respectful and full of admiration. "Mr. James, I have arrived in Jincheng." The man opposite responded calmly, "Act according to the plan." "Okay, Mr. James." Nwao wanted to say a few more words to Mr. James, but Mr. James had no intention of chatting with her. After a few brief words, he cut off the call. Seeing the phone being hung up, Nwao was a little disappointed. But she soon regained her composure and cheered herself up in her heart. It's okay, as long as she can complete the task assigned to her by Mr. James, then he will definitely leave a good impression on her. Although she had only been with Mr. James for more than 3 months, she had been deeply attracted to him and couldn't help but fall in love with him since their first meeting. Nwao secretly swore in her heart that she would become Mr. James's woman. Even if she is just a shady mistress, she is willing. Who knows, Mr. James is not only handsome, but also powerful. Even the officials of Country M are polite to him, and even a little bit flattering to him. Nwao wanted to outdo Nanyan in everything. She almost went crazy with jealousy when she saw that Nanyan was on the hot search again and again because of her outstanding performance abroad. The person who was once stepped on by her feet turned around and fell on top of her. How could she bear it? Since she is incomparable with her in other aspects, then find a man that she can look up to and never come into contact with in her life to overpower her. Qin Lu is just the heir of a family in China. No matter how rich and powerful he is, if he is placed in front of Mr. James, it is still nothing. Hashtag. The departure of Lulahua and Inciting did not affect the people outside the emergency room. And just when the two of them went to pick up Nwao and left less than 10 minutes later, the closed door opened. When Mr. Lu saw Nanyan coming out, he quickly stepped forward and asked, "Yanyan, how is your grandpa? Out of danger?" Nanyan's words made Mr. Lu breathe a long sigh of relief. Although An Yeoking was a bastard, Mr. N was still a good friend in Mr. Lu's heart, and he didn't want anything to happen to him. "That's good." Mr. Lu patted Nanyan on the shoulder and looked at Hua Shifang, who came out with Nanyan. "Yanyan, this old gentleman is Grandpa, let me introduce to you. This is my master, Hua Shifang, the leader of the miraculous medical section." Even though he had guessed Hua Shifang's identity before, Mr. Lu was still shocked when he heard Nanyan say it in person. "Hello, Mr. Lu." Hua Shifang's attitude towards outsiders is that the more ordinary people are, the more friendly they are. The more powerful they are, the more they will be treated. However, Mr. Lu is Nanyan's grandfather, so he will not be too distant from him. Mr. Lu was a little flattered and responded politely, "Hello, Mr. Hua, I didn't expect that we would meet under such circumstances." Even though Mr. Lu is the honorary master of the #1 building in the world and is admired by countless people, he dare not be disrespectful in front of the genius Dr. Hua Shifang. This is not a person of the same status at all. Even in their eyes, Hua Shifang is a person worthy of admiration. This can also be seen from Tao Qingming's attitude towards Hua Shifang. "Grandpa, this is my second master, the king of medicine Sun Chan." Sun Chan also came over and greeted Mr. Lu. Mr. Lu said politely, "Mr. Sun, I heard Yanyan mention you before, and now I finally see you in person." Sun Chan stroked his beard and laughed, "Did Yanyan mention me?" "Of course, Yanyan told me." Mr. Lu has given up now. With Hua Shifang and Sun Chan as masters, Yanyan has no time to learn art from him. And Yanyan's goal is to do scientific research and contribute to the country. He should train the little girl Zhang Nai. Ens Hisai listened to their conversation and was in a state of shock. Of course, he had heard of Hua Shifang. The reputation of the Divine Doctor sect is known to almost the entire upper-class society, and everyone wants to curry favor with them. After all, everyone gets sick sometimes. If you make friends with the Divine Doctor, you don't have to worry about not being able to cure yourself when you get sick in the future. He didn't expect that the Divine Doctor Hua Shifang and the Medicine King Sun Chan were both Nan Yan's masters. The sister he despised the most turned out to be the descendant of a Divine Doctor and the King of Medicine. She was also so outstanding and dazzling like a pearl. At that station, she could become the focus of everyone and people could not look away from her. But Ens Hisai suddenly felt a little regretful. Why did he have such a big prejudice against Nan Yan before? He always thought that she was good at nothing and would only embarrass herself and was not worthy of being his sister. He knew that Nan Yan was his real sister, but he only cared about Nwao and treated her as his real sister. In front of her, he pampered and cared for Nwao in various ways. It turned out that he thought she was not worthy of being his sister. In fact, Nan Yan never cared about him as a brother. Ens Hisai looked at Anziran and envied that the relationship between him and Nan Yan was so harmonious and intimate. If she started to change now, would Nan Yan be willing to give him another chance? "Master, second master, this is my fourth brother, Anziran." "Mr. Hua." "Mr. Sun," Anziran called respectfully. And Mulan looked at Nan Yan with some expectation. Nan Yan's eyes, from beginning to end, never looked at him. The expectation in Mulan's eyes was dashed, and he could only smile bitterly in the end, and his regret was even deeper. He saw through the truth too late, and the harm to her had already been done. It was understandable that she was unwilling to forgive him. He didn't do well enough, and he would continue to work hard in the future to get her recognition. A group of people stood outside the emergency room and exchanged a few words. After Mr. N was pushed out, they went to the ward together. Nan Yan. When Nan Yan was about to enter the ward, Ens Hisai stopped her. Nan Yan frowned and looked back at him. "What's the matter?" In her eyes, except for Anziran and Mr. N, the N family had become strangers in her eyes. And Yaoking and Lulahua's repeated suicides had already worn out all her patience. If it wasn't unavoidable, she didn't want to see them. Nan Yan. Ens Hisai was too ashamed to speak, especially when facing Nan Yan's cold and distant eyes. He could hardly open his mouth. Nan Yan's expression was cold. "If you're okay, I'll go in first." After that, she turned and walked inside. "I'm sorry." Ens Hisai's apology came from behind. "I was prejudiced against you before, so I had many misunderstandings about you. I'm sorry, I'm not qualified as a big brother, and you have suffered so much grievance at home." When Nan Yan heard what Ens Hisai said, there was only a trace of sarcasm in her eyes. Without responding to him or looking back, Nan Yan pushed the door and walked into the ward. It was the first time that Hisai apologized to someone, which was already very shameful and embarrassing, but Nan Yan didn't buy it. This result made him even more embarrassed. He wanted to say something else, but Mulan, who was walking at the end, said, "Brother, don't bother Yan anymore. She doesn't need us. We represent hurt and betrayal to her. If you really feel that you did something wrong before and feel guilty about her, then don't bother her anymore." And Mulan's words made Hisai's face change slightly. He turned around and looked at Mulan's decadent and regretful expression, and did not agree with his point of view. "We are a family of the same lineage. I understand that she has resentment because of the previous things, but there is no overnight hatred in a family. Just talk it out. We will make it up to her in the future." And Mulan sneered, then looked at him and asked sharply, "Brother, if you didn't find out today that Yan's master is the genius Dr. Hua Shifang and the medicine king Sun Quan, would you apologize to her? The reason why you apologized to her and wanted her to recognize her as a member of the Yan family is not because you know that you did something wrong before, nor do you see clearly that you are unfair to her, but because she now has someone who is beyond your reach, and you want to make friends through her. And Mulan and Hisai are brothers, and he is familiar with his character. Hisai is the best businessman among the four brothers. In his eyes, the most important thing is profit." Hisai was a little annoyed when Mulan said so bluntly what he had hidden in his heart, and his face sank slightly and said, "No matter what, she is a member of the Yan family, and it is useless for her to deny this. Don't forget, Yan has cut off relations with us a long time ago." And Mulan reminded her in a cold tone, "The comments posted by my parents on the social platform have made her have no feelings for the Yan family. Except for Grandpa and the fourth child." And Mulan knew that what he had identified was not so easy to see through, and he didn't intend to argue with him anymore. After saying this, he walked directly past Hisai and entered the ward. Hisai was the only one left outside the ward. Hisai looked a little confused. Because Mulan's words made him reflect. Did he really do something wrong by wanting Nan Yan to return to the Yan family? Hashtag. Ziran heard the conversation between Hisai and Nan Yan, and saw Nan Yan's attitude. He sighed, walked over, and said softly, Yan, you don't have to care about anyone. No matter what reason the eldest brother apologizes to you, if you don't like it, don't care. You have your own way to go, and you don't need us to be a burden to you. Fourth brother can't help you in other ways, but I will find a way to prevent them from disturbing you. Nan Yan said, "Fourth brother, you and Grandpa are not a burden to me. As for the other people in the Yan family, I don't want to care, and they can't disturb me, so you don't have to worry about it. When Grandpa is well, I want to take him to the imperial capital. If you are willing to move the company to the imperial capital, you can come with us." Old Manan almost died again, and Nan Yan made a decision. Staying in Jinjinj, Mr. N's recovery progress is too slow. She has to take him to her side and look after him in person. The old man's health was not good to begin with, and she was forced to pull him back from the brink of death. After several months of treatment, he was only better than before. Although his body seems healthy, the losses he suffered from years of illness cannot be made up so quickly. This time, he was stimulated again, and all the efforts of the past few months were in vain. Ziran smiled and said, "You can take Grandpa away. Fourth brother has not planned to move the company address yet." Nan Yan nodded, "Okay, then fourth brother, when you want to change the place, tell me again." Ziran, "Okay. After treatment, Mr. N's condition has gradually stabilized, but he can't wake up so soon." Nan Yan saw the fatigue on Mr. Lu's face and advised, "Grandpa, go back and rest first, don't stay here." Mr. Lu was angry at first, and then frightened by Mr. N's accident. He is old and can't stand such a big stimulation. Before, Mr. N was in a critical condition, so he didn't feel much. Now that the situation is stable, he also feels tired. Anziran also said, "Yes, Grandpa, we will stay here, or I will send you back." Mr. Lu did not try to be strong. "Okay, when your grandpa wakes up, you must notify Grandpa in time, and Grandpa will come to see him again." After that, he looked at Hua Shifang and Sun Chen again. "Hua Lao, Sun Lao, let the young people guard here, or you go to the Lu family first." Nan Yan advised, "Master, second master, you and Grandpa go back to rest." Hua Shifang looked at the ward and saw that there were indeed many people, and nodded, "Okay." After sending the three elders away, the ward was much quieter. Nan Yan had been operating on Mr. N for half a day, and now she was a little tired. Seeing her rubbing her temples, Qin Lu walked over and coaxed her gently, "Yan Yan, sleep for a while." Nan Yan shook her head, "Grandpa is not completely stable yet, I want to stay here." "Then take a nap." Qin Lu directly pulled Nan Yan to the sofa, sat down first, then took her into his arms, and adjusted her position to make her more comfortable. He stroked her cheek and said domineeringly, "Your third brother is also here, let him help watch, you rest first." And Mulan and Hisai were also in the room, but they were ignored by Qin Lu. Fu Yubai whispered softly, "Little sister, you are tired enough today, you really need to rest, I will watch Mr. N, you don't have to worry." Nan Yan. It seems that she has no right to say no anymore. Familiar and soothing cold fragrance, a hug full of security, Nan Yan simply did not struggle, stretched out her hands to hug Qin De Lao's thin waist, rubbed her head on his chest, and whispered, "Remember to wake me up if you need anything." Qin Lu, "Well, go to sleep. Brother, come out with me." And Mulan whispered to Hisai, and then walked out first. Hisai followed him out in silence. After leaving the ward, Mulan's expression became a little solemn. "What do you think about Dad's cheating?" Hisai, "We can't let them get divorced. The N family can't afford to lose this person. Moreover, it is not that simple to divorce a marriage between big families." And Mulan also meant the same thing. "Have you sent someone to check on Dad's mistress?" It happened suddenly, and Grandpa suddenly became critically ill again before he could do anything. And Mulan, "Then I'll go check it out now and control her first so as not to make the matter a big deal." And Hisai said coldly, "If it doesn't work, just throw her abroad and let her fend for herself abroad. Don't come back and be an eyesore in front of mother." Hashtag. At the airport, Lulahua and Ansiding received Nweo. When they got to the car, Lulahua held Nweo's hand and asked in a low voice, "Yao Yao, why did you come back suddenly? Not even a bit of news was revealed before." Nweo leaned on her shoulder affectionately, "Mom, I missed you so much, that's why I ran back without telling you." Lulahua felt sour in his heart and choked up, "It doesn't matter if I'm back, no one will remember what happened before. Yao Yao, don't leave, just stay with your mother." Nweo lowered her eyes slightly, covering the emotions in her eyes. She did not answer her words and changed the subject without any trace. "Mom, I haven't asked you yet, is there something going on at home?" She won't stay in Jinchinj forever. After she completes the task assigned to her by Mr. James, she will return to country M. She wants to stay with Mr. James. "Yao Yao, I want to divorce your father." Lulahua cried uncontrollably, "Your dad is a beast and a scumbag. He is already in his 50s and 60s and still imitates other people's cheating and keeping a mistress. It is shameless and disgusting. Yao Yao, how could he do such a thing? Does he still have heart? I am wholeheartedly for him and this family." Lulahua hugged Nweo and cried bitterly. Nweo patted her on the shoulder, but there was not much concern in his eyes, only boredom. "But it seems the timing of her return is good. If such a big thing happens to the N family, it will definitely be chaotic. If she takes the opportunity to do something, no one will suspect her. Maybe that mistress can also be used. After she comforted Lulahua and stopped crying, she asked, "Mom, are you willing to leave like this? You and Dad are divorced. Then the mistress can legitimately be with Dad. If Dad marries her again in the future and she becomes the wife of the N family, then you will become a joke in Jinchinj." Lulahua was stunned for a moment, and after thinking about it, it was indeed true. However, she was too confused now and couldn't think straight. She subconsciously asked, "Then what should I do? If I were you, I wouldn't get divorced. I'd deal with the mistress first, and don't let her get the benefit of the doubt. After I deal with the mistress, I can then negotiate with Dad. You have lived more than half your life, divorce is definitely not an option. Think about it carefully. In fact, divorce is not the best option. It's better to maintain a superficial relationship and make Dad feel guilty about you, so that he doesn't dare to make any more mistakes and return to the family." Lulahua, "Let me think about it." Well, think about it carefully. Nwao didn't want them to divorce. The reason was actually very simple. She wanted to make a home. Complete settlement. If she was just a powerless woman, how could she legitimately stay with Mr. James? But it would be different if she had the assets to make a home. She is willing to dedicate her entire family to Mr. James, just asking him to love her a little more. If Lulahua divorces, Angia's property will definitely be divided. She will not allow Angia's property to decrease, so she must stop it. Inciting was driving in front, and when he heard what Nwao said, he couldn't help but look at the sister with admiration. She gave up Lulahua's idea of divorce with just a few words. It seemed that the girl was still attentive and could get to the point. "Mom, where should we go? To the hospital or home?" Lulahua pinched his brows and said, "Let's go to the hospital first. Your grandfather is still being rescued. Since Yao Yao is back, you have to go see him." Nwao was confused. "Mom, what happened to Grandpa?" Lulahua snorted coldly, "It's not because your father is angry, but I don't know if he can turn the situation around." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 429. Inciting drove the car back to the hospital, and in the car, Lulahua also told Nwao that Mr. N vomited blood and fell unconscious because he knew about Nyaoking's scandal. Nwao verbally comforted Lulahua, but in her heart she wished that Mr. N would die. The old man was extremely biased. Just because she was not his granddaughter, he ignored the feelings of so many years and only favored Nan Yan, the bitch. If he died, there would be one less obstacle for her to get the N family in the future. Nwao secretly made up her mind that if the four brothers of the N family would become an obstacle for her to inherit the N family in the future, she would not show mercy. Hashtag. Tao Sisi was a scheming woman. For so many years, she had been Nyaoking's lover who could not see the light of day. She had been planning how to make her identity public so that Nyaoking and Lulahua would break up and she would have a chance to take the position. Now, she finally appeared in front of Lulahua at a very appropriate time, and let Nyaoking beat Lulahua to protect her, which directly intensified the conflict between the couple. Then, she would expose the existence of her daughter, let the N family and Lulahua know that she had given birth to a daughter for Nyaoking. She bribed the nurses at the hospital, and when she knew that Hisai and Mulin were looking for her, she did not follow the plan that Nyaoking told her to hide outside, but stayed in the apartment that Nyaoking bought for her, playing with building blocks with her daughter. Looking at her daughter's depressed and autistic appearance, she taught her, "Lele, if a bad guy comes to beat your mother, you must save your mother, Understand? Lele is 5 years old and is in kindergarten, but because she has been excluded by her classmates and no children will play with her, her personality is a little inferior and weak. And there are already signs of autism. I thought about giving her treatment, but every time she saw Yeoking caring about Lele and taking out 120% of his patience to accompany Lele, she changed her mind. She wanted Yeoking to care more about his daughter, so that he would spend more time with them. Lele looked at Tao Sisi blankly and asked in confusion, why would the bad guys beat mom? Because the bad guys want to separate mom and dad and make Lele a child without a father. Mom wants to protect Lele and can't let Lele lose her father, so she has to fight with them. Lele, do you want to be separated from dad? Fright flashed across Lele's little face, and she shook her head quickly, no. Lele doesn't want to be separated from dad. After that, her little mouth pursed again, and she asked Tao Sisi pitifully, but why can't dad be with Lele like other dads all the time? Because Lele is not good enough and can't be recognized by dad, so in order to make dad like you more, Lele has to work harder and study the dance and piano that mom has signed you up for, understand? Lele nodded ignorantly, I know. Tao Sisi reached out and touched her daughter's head, with a smile in her eyes, Lele is so good. Hashtag. Ens Hisai and Mulan drove to find Tao Sisi according to the location they found. Halfway, Ens Hisai's cell phone rang. Ens Hisai drove with one hand and answered the phone. Without waiting for Yeoking to speak, he said directly, Dad, if you still want to live with my mother, then don't worry about the mistress anymore. I won't kill her. At most, I will send her abroad so that she won't appear in front of you again. If you still insist on not repenting, her fate will only be worse. After that, without waiting for Yeoking to answer, he hung up the phone with a click. Yeoking cursed while lying on the hospital bed, and then hurriedly called Tao Sisi. Sisi, have you left Jinchinj? Tao Sisi looked at Sisi who was having fun sitting on the carpet, and lowered her voice and said, Boss, I haven't left yet, Sisi is sick, and she is in a very bad state now. Hurry up and take her away, don't stay in the apartment, my son and others will go to find you, and if they find Lele, things will get out of hand. Yeoking is now anxious. If it's just to support a lover, there is still room for easing the situation. But if they find out that he has a daughter outside, I'm afraid there will be no last chance. He didn't want to divorce Lu Lehua. Not only for the Lu family's family background, but also because, compared to Tao Sisi, Lu Lehua was worthy of the status of the mistress of the Yin family. Tao Sisi was just a plaything of his, and she was not worthy of being treated as a noble woman. He had never thought of divorce, let alone marrying Tao Sisi. Anyway, he had plenty of money, so what was wrong with keeping a mistress outside? But now, his family might be destroyed because of his arrogance, and he felt panic. Okay, I'll leave now, boss, don't be angry, I'll take Lele away immediately. Hurry up, don't pack anything, take Lele and leave immediately, and I'll give you money when you go outside. Okay. Tao Sisi responded with fear and trepidation. After hanging up the phone, the expression on her face faded, and she still sat on the carpet calmly, looking at her daughter. She changed her mobile phone and called a newspaper reporter with a newly bought anonymous phone card. Hello, I have some big news about a wealthy family. Do you want it? It's very explosive and will definitely attract a lot of attention. Yes, of course. Where is it? Tao Sisi told him an address, and when the call ended, she took out the phone card inside, threw it into the toilet, and flushed it away. Hashtag. Ens Hisai and Mulan found Tao Sisi's residence, knocked on the door, and saw a little girl inside. They immediately understood that the girl was the daughter of Yeoking and Xiaosan. After Ens Hisai and Mulan became furious, they used force to force their mother and daughter to leave Jinchinj. Tao Sisi knelt on the ground and begged them to let her and her daughter live. Lele remembered what her mother told her, and cried loudly and pushed Ans Hisai and An Mulan forward, not allowing them to bully her mother. Bad people, you are all bad people. Are you bullying Lele, bullying mom, you big bad guys? Get up, kid, who bullied your mother? I didn't even touch her. Ans Hisai pulled Lele away from his legs with a dark face. If you want to fight, then hit me. Lele is also your sister. She is so young and doesn't understand anything. If you are angry, just take it out on me. Don't bully my daughter. Tao Sisi screamed and rushed forward, hugged Lele directly, and then stood on the balcony. She looked collapsed, crying and begging, I beg you, please let me and my daughter live. If you really hate me so much, then I will die. I just ask you to treat my daughter well. After all, she also has the blood of the An family, and she is your biological sister. As long as you agree, I will jump off the top right now and trade my life for my daughter to live well. The reporter who was called by Tao Sisi saw the scene and immediately started a live broadcast and spent money to buy the popularity. For a time, his live broadcast room became a hotspot, attracting countless viewers. Dear viewers, we are now in XX apartment. Now there is a woman holding her child and trying to jump off the building. It is reported that this woman is the lover of a rich man. Now the real wife of the family knows about it and sends someone to find trouble for the mistress. The audience who were watching the live broadcast immediately became interested when they heard that it was a war between the mistress of a wealthy family and the real wife. After all, the scandals of wealthy families often attract more attention than the scandals of celebrities. Many ordinary people are eager to see wealthy families being ruthless, and then criticize those so-called wealthy families from the moral high ground. You deserve it if you know someone who is a mistress. What I hate the most in my life is a woman who acts as a mistress. Now my wife comes to the door of my house. I am so embarrassed. I really deserve it. Although, I do look down on mistresses, but shouldn't the so-called rich man also be scolded? Why don't you guys go check it out and see whose mistress this is? This woman is so shameless. She actually jumped off the building with her child in her arms. The child is innocent. If she wants to die, she should die by herself. Why should she drag her own daughter to die? She is so vicious. There are more and more people watching the excitement below the apartment, so no one calls the police. Why do I feel like I have seen her somewhere? Comments in the live broadcast room were flowing quickly. The reporter watched the popularity of his live broadcast continue to rise, and couldn't help but feel happy in his heart. He wanted to thank the unknown person who called him. Ans Hisai and An Mulan stood on the balcony. They didn't know that someone was already broadcasting live outside, let alone that there was a circle of people outside. The two of them were also quite confused. Did they do anything excessive? Just let her take her daughter abroad, give her a sum of money, buy her a plane ticket, and ask her not to return to the country to affect their family. Then she will hold the child on the balcony, looking like she is dying? This woman is really cruel. What she was holding in her arms was her biological daughter. And Mulan suppressed his temper and said in a calm tone as much as possible, "You come down first, we are not forcing you. If you take your child to a foreign country, it will be like being poked in the spine and listening to those people scold you." He didn't dare to provoke her anymore. What if she jumped off the balcony if she was provoked again? That's 2 lives. Tao Sisi didn't seem to hear what he said and cried loudly, "I beg you, let my daughter go. My daughter is innocent. I was the one who did the wrong thing. She is only 5 years old. Let her go." People in the live broadcast room couldn't hear what An Mulan and Ans Hisai said. They could only hear Tao Sisi's begging for mercy and Lele's frightened cry. The scene got out of control for a while. Moreover, someone called the police. The police not far from the apartment rushed over as quickly as possible, broke into the apartment, and controlled Ans Hisai and An Mulan. "Do not move. Don't move. Ens Hisai /U0026 and Mulin. No, comrade police, what crime have we committed that you want to arrest us? Madam, you mother and daughter are safe now. You can hold the child down first. It's too dangerous there. Please get out of there. If you have any grievances, you can tell us and we will help you solve them. When Tao Sisi saw that the incident had become a commotion and that someone had filmed the incident and posted the video online, she stopped insisting and came down from the balcony with the help of 2 policemen. She walked up to Ens Hisai and An Mulin with Lele in her arms, and kept saying sorry to them, as if she felt pity for them. 2 brothers. Too careless. Until now, they still don't know that Tao Sisi's move on the balcony just now was intentional. It seems that it is impossible for her to leave Jinjinj and go abroad in a wise manner. But now that the situation is like this, if they continue to use strong methods, if something happens to her, it will definitely be blamed on them. Ens Hisai and An Mulin looked at each other and saw fear and irritability in each other's eyes. You guys, please go to the police station. Hashtag. And Yeoking was lying in the hospital, anxious, and then a call came in. What did you say? And stock is continuing to fall. Mr. An, I'm not talking about you. This time, you have gone too far. Since you have raised a mistress, why don't you settle down well and make the matter so big? Now that An's reputation is affected by you, if you don't handle it properly, it may cause irreparable losses. You'd better find a way to solve it as soon as possible. The other party criticized him and hung up the phone. And Yeoking had a bad intuition and quickly took out his mobile phone to check the stock market. Compared with what he had seen a few hours ago, it had dropped by nearly 5 percentage points. This is equivalent to the evaporation of almost 3 billion. What happened? How could others know that he was keeping a mistress? Did Lu Lihua tell outsiders? Just when he was looking for someone to ask what happened, Lu Lihua violently opened the door and barged in. Inciting and An Weiao followed behind. And Yeoking, you are really capable. Not only did you raise a mistress outside, but you also gave birth to an illegitimate daughter. You are so disgusting. Lu Lihua forgot all about his self-cultivation and rushed forward, scratching and scratching An Yeoking's face. And Yeoking didn't check for a while, but she scratched her face all over. Lihua, please calm down and let's talk, okay? Lihua, stop it. And Yeoking couldn't move his legs, but he could still move his hands. After reacting, he quickly grabbed her wrist and stopped her actions. But his face had been scratched into a mess, and there were several broken skin spots, and blood was still pouring out. And Yeoking, you are a bastard. Lu Lihua struggled to pull out his hand, slapped An Yeoking hard on the face, then pointed at his nose and cursed, I will treat this half of my life as feeding dogs, you disgusting scum, so disgusting that it makes you want to vomit. Originally, in the car, after listening to An Weiao's words, she planned to endure it for the sake of her half-life sacrifice, and maintain the dignity of husband and wife with him in the future, and live their own lives. But now, she just wants to divorce him. You're disgusting. Even looking at it makes me physically uncomfortable. I want to divorce you. If you don't want to, just wait to receive the court summons. It is absolutely impossible for her to leave empty-handed when she divorces. She must get at least half of his property. Moreover, since he is the at-fault party, he must favor her in the division of property. And Yeoking grabbed her hand in desperation and said, Lihua, I won't divorce you unless I divorce you. I sent them away, mother and daughter, and I promise not to see them again in the future. You give me one more chance, just once. I will never let you down again, okay? Roll. Lu Lihua slapped him again and left angrily. And Yeoking wanted to get out of bed and chase after him, but when he moved his legs, he felt terrible pain. He gritted his teeth and looked at inciting, help me persuade your mother, I won't divorce her. She is so angry right now that no one can persuade her, and Siding also had a big head. He looked at the blushing Yeoking and sighed, "Dad, if I had known this, why would you have done it in the first place? If you can't even control your lower body, what can you accomplish?" And Siding's attitude towards Yeoking changed invisibly. He no longer respected him as before, and even looked down upon him. If Lulahua really divorced him, he would be the culprit for destroying their family. Nwao didn't even say a word to Yeoking. When Lulahua ran out, she followed him. She had to find a way to prevent Lulahua from getting divorced. For Mr. James's sake, she needed a complete home. Hashtag. Nanyan took a nap and woke up feeling much better. Woke up. Qin Lu's deep and hoarse voice sounded above her head. Nanyan blinked, her eyes focused, and she saw a magnified handsome face. "How long have I been asleep?" "An hour and a half." Qin Lu gently rubbed her lower back gently. "Do you feel any discomfort?" Although he kept holding her, he was worried that keeping her in the same position would prevent her from getting a good rest. "No, I slept well and very comfortably." Nanyan sat upright according to the force of his hands push and stretched relaxedly. Looking back, she saw Qin Lu pressing her arm, and she subconsciously asked, "Brother, are you tired?" "No problem." Qin Lu smiled and put his hand down. Fuyubai turned a blind eye to the intimate interaction between the two and silently looked away. Fortunately, both master and uncle are gone. Otherwise, seeing this scene, my blood pressure will probably rise. Anziran looked as if he had long been used to strange things. The two of them were tired of each other, and it was no longer a matter of 1 or 2 days. He has slowly accepted Qin Lu, who abducted his little sister, as his brother-in-law. No matter what, Yanyan likes her and he treats her well, that's enough. Regardless of Qin Lu's statement that it was okay, Nanyan pressed his arm so that he could relieve the soreness and swelling as soon as possible. It wasn't until Qin Lu said, "That's it," that she took back her hand and walked towards Mr. An. "Third senior brother, are there any abnormalities in my grandfather's body values?" Fuyubai smiled gently and said, "No, Mr. N's condition is very stable." "That's good." Nanyan breathed a sigh of relief. "Third brother, why don't you go find Master and the others first? I'll wait a few more hours until Grandpa wakes up, and then I'll go back to find you." "Okay." Fuyubai did not object to Nanyan's arrangement. "Call me if you have anything." "Fourth brother, please help me send third brother to Grandpa." Anziran nodded. "Okay, Yanyan, what do you and Mr. Qin want to eat?" "I'll buy it when I come back." Nanyan, "Anything is fine, I'm not picky." Qin Lu, similarly, "Just casual." Anziran, "It's this casual that makes people most confused." "Okay." He bought it himself. Anziran and Fuyubai were about to go out, and Lulahua and Nwao were about to come in. The four of them blocked the door of the ward. Anziran looked at Nwao with a frown. "When did you come back?" Feeling his alienation and unwelcome, Nwao felt a chill in her heart, but she didn't show it on her face. She said obediently, "Fourth brother, such a big thing happened at home, how could I not come back? How is Grandpa? Is he awake? I want to go in and see him." "Ziran, what's your attitude? Yao Yao came to visit the old man, isn't it okay?" Before Lulahua came, Nwao had already calmed down. Perhaps because she hated Yeoking too much, now seeing Anziran, she felt a little angry with him. Anziran didn't want to leave. He was worried that Lulahua and Nwao would cause trouble for Nanyan again. Grandpa is still in a coma, and it's not appropriate to disturb him now. If you want to see him, go in and take a look. We'll be there to watch over him in the hospital. Go back after you're done, and come back when Grandpa wakes up." Nwao nodded. "Fourth brother, I'll go in and take a look, and then leave." Lulahua wanted to lose his temper, but Nweo grabbed her hand and exerted a little force. She pursed her lips and endured it. After half a year, Nweo saw Nanyan in person again, not the praise she saw on the hot search list, but a living person. The overwhelming hatred, like a raging fire, burned and steamed in her heart, making her tremble slightly in order to control her emotions. Nanyan glanced at the mother and daughter indifferently, ignored them, and sat quietly beside Grandpa An's bed, without even the intention of speaking. Enziran and Fuyubai also followed in. Nweo suppressed her hatred and pretended to call Grandpa beside the bed. She even shed a few tears before turning back to ask Enziran, "Did the doctor say when Grandpa would wake up?" "When he can wake up, he will wake up naturally," Enziran said perfunctorily. "After the examination, you can go back first. I'll take you there." "Enziran," Lulahua whispered, "don't go too far." She knew that Enziran favored Nanyan and was very prejudiced against Nweo, but she didn't expect that Enziran would not be willing to treat Nweo better in front of her. This made her intolerable. "Mom, I guess fourth brother is too worried about Grandpa and in a bad mood, so he speaks like that. I don't mind." Nweo walked up to Nanyan, bowed to her, and then apologized sincerely. "Nanyan, I know it may be too late for me to apologize to you now, but I have been reflecting on myself during the past 6 months abroad. I did something wrong and hurt you. I am really sorry. I already know that I was wrong and I am sincerely correcting it. I hope you can forgive me." Nanyan's expression was cold. "I don't accept your apology, nor do I forgive you. It's okay, don't come in front of me, lest I dislike you and punish you again." Nweo. Bitch. She has lowered her posture so much, but she doesn't appreciate it. Qin Ye's little ancestor is a real boss. Author, Junanan. Chapter 430. Nweo squeezed her palms hard, looking at the man who had been sitting on the sofa, not saying anything, but with a strong presence. Nanyan dared to be so arrogant. Didn't she think that man could protect her? It is undeniable that if she hadn't gone abroad, Nweo also felt that Qin Lu's identity was definitely the most noble and powerful person she knew. But since she met Mr. James, she no longer looked down on domestic men. No matter how strong the Qin family is, can it be compared with Mr. James? Mr. James is one of the 7 law enforcers of the temple. The ruler of the Qin family is not qualified in front of him. Nweo clenched her fists, suppressed the hatred for Nanyan in her heart, turned around and called Lulahua, "Mom, let's go back first. Your condition is not very good, you need to rest, wait for Grandpa to wake up, we will come to see him." Lulahua really didn't have the mood to stay here. From the time she caught Nyeoking cheating and being intimate with other women, to later knowing that he had a daughter with another woman, her nerves have been in a tense state. If she doesn't rest, she will probably collapse. Seeing the cold expressions of Nanyan and Enziran, and their dislike for Nweo, she didn't want to stay here anymore. This place seemed to remind her clearly how she was betrayed. "Yao Yao, let's go." Lulahua grabbed Nweo's hand, and she left with Nweo without looking at anyone. Enziran followed. He planned to send them home by himself, and then come back to send Fuyubai after sending them away. Nanyan's eyes were not retracted until Nweo walked out of the ward. "Yan Yan, what are you thinking about?" Qin Lu came to her side at some point, and stroked her cheek with his fingertips. "I wonder where Nweo got the courage to come back. The old man's accident and Nyeoking's derailment happened today, and they were only known to a small circle. Nweo was far away in country M, and it was impossible for her to hear the news so quickly. So, she didn't come back for these 2 things. Nanyan has always believed in her 6th sense, but for the time being, she is still unsure of Nweo's purpose. But if she dares to get close to her, then she can't blame her for being ruthless. Qin Lu knew that she had her own plans, and he had no intention of intervening in such a small matter. He patted her on the back soothingly and told her the news he had just received: the person in charge of the 7 deadly sins is not in country M at the moment. Perhaps, he is also in country China. Yan Yan, you have to be careful recently. When did it happen? Nan Yan couldn't control the anger in her heart when she heard the 3 words 7 deadly sins. If it weren't for the 7 deadly sins, Shen Junqing and Bai Chen wouldn't be like this now. Nan Yan's eyes were cold and cruel. No matter what, she had to find the person in charge of the 7 deadly sins, torture him to the fullest, and make him live a life worse than death. I don't know the exact time. He deliberately concealed his whereabouts and left a substitute there. My people just found out. On the 7 deadly sins side, Qin Lu and Li Yuan had been sending people to watch. At the beginning, Nolan used other secret passages to take the people from the 7 deadly sins headquarters and trick them. Later, they conducted a carpet search in the territory of M country. Unfortunately, they only found the whereabouts of a few members of the 7 deadly sins, and still could not enter the core members. And the tracker on Strayer was also found and taken out. Now it is very difficult to find their information. But even so, they still found some clues. Nan Yan slowly exhaled a breath of depression and whispered, "It's best if he comes to me." In this way, she also saved the time to find him. Can avenge the 3rd brother and Bai Chen faster. Qin Lu's eyes darkened slightly, and he said nothing, but just silently held her shoulders. His woman, protected by him. Fu Yubai pretended to stand by the window to enjoy the scenery, trying not to be a light bulb for the two of them. Hashtag. And Yeo King's cheating scandal was thoroughly exposed, and the An family's stock price fell to the limit within a day. Many shareholders who held An family stocks were almost collapsed. The shareholders of the board of directors were almost going crazy. They all ran to the hospital and asked An Yeoking to give an explanation. What explanation could An Yeoking give? He was in the hospital now, and he couldn't even go to Tao Sisi. An's Hisai and An Mulan were still in the police station because Tao Sisi insisted that the two of them wanted to force her to death. Because no one was going to bail them out, they didn't know that An's was in chaos. If you can't solve the problem of An's stock plummeting within 3 days, you will automatically abdicate and we will re-elect someone to manage An's. And you must make up for the losses of our board of directors. It's all because of your scandal that the entire An has been implicated. Are you worthy of us? The angry shareholders were all scolding An Yeoking. If it weren't for the fact that he was the president of the An family, and he was still half disabled and hospitalized in the hospital, they would probably have been unable to resist. An Yeoking was furious at being scolded, but he didn't dare to explode. He could only pretend to be their grandson and keep apologizing. We will give you 3 days. If you cannot resolve your scandal and restore the stock price, you will automatically step down and let someone else take your place. Otherwise, don't blame us for impeaching you and directly removing you from your position. After saying this angrily, the shareholders left with harsh words and walked away. And Yeoking was so angry that his face turned blue and his whole body was shaking. Tao. Si. This bitch. He was not stupid. After seeing the live broadcast, he guessed that all this was planned by Tao Sisi herself. He gave her so much time. If she really wanted to leave, she would definitely leave before An's Hisai and An Mulan went. But she didn't. Instead, she stayed in the apartment, waiting for them to find her. And the live broadcast was also strange. The apartment he bought for Tao Sisi was in a high-end community, and usually no reporters or paparazzi could enter. Why would this reporter broadcast live there, and just at that time? Now the internet is full of comments scolding him for being a scumbag. Lu Lahua is determined to divorce him, and those people on the board of directors are forcing him to give up his position. It's all because of her bitch. And Yeoking took the phone in a rage, found Tao Cici's number, and called her. The call was connected, but no one answered until it hung up automatically. And Yeoking's face became even darker. She deliberately didn't answer his call. In the past, no matter when he called Tao Cici, she would always answer the call, and there was no time when the call couldn't be connected. This call gave him more reason to believe that Tao Cici did it on purpose. Tao Cici was now holding Lele, and the mother and daughter were watching the cartoons on TV and laughing. As for the phone that she had muted, it was placed on the coffee table. She saw the call from An Yeoking, but she didn't answer it. She knew that if she made a fuss, An Yeoking would definitely get angry with her. If she answered the phone at this time, she would definitely be scolded, and she might even be driven away by the furious An Yeoking. She was not stupid. It's better to wait for him to calm down. After a while, she will take her daughter to coax him. Anyway, now the whole Jinjinj knows that she gave An Yeoking a daughter, and he will not ignore them. Hashtag. The shareholders left An Yeoking's ward and walked towards the ward where Mr. N was hospitalized. Would it be bad for so many of us to disturb Mr. N? One shareholder was quite sensible and backed off. Why don't we wait until Mr. N is in better health before visiting him? Let's not disturb him now. Someone expressed a different opinion. Since we are here, we just go in to see him. We won't stay too long. Otherwise, if we tell others about it, it will only make us shareholders look wrong. That's right, we won't say anything else when we go in. We'll just visit Mr. N. After seeing him, we'll stay for 3 to 5 minutes and leave. Shareholder Chen is right. Don't mention the N family and don't provoke Mr. N. Yeah. This mention made the other shareholders agree. If Mr. N is fine, it would be great if he could hold on for a few more years. Ah, who said it wasn't? An Yeoking is far inferior to Mr. N. Fortunately, the N family has 4 sons, all of whom are young talents. No matter which one gets promoted, he will manage the company better than their father. I think the eldest son of the N family is good. He has not relied on the background of the N family in recent years. He has started his own company outside. Now the company has grown to a considerable scale. It can be seen that his business acumen is definitely not bad. Why don't we recommend the eldest son to take over his father's position? Yes, I also prefer the eldest son. Okay, let's go to see Mr. N first, and then discuss these things after we go back. Well, let's go. In the ward. Old man N just woke up not long ago. But he was too weak and could only look at Nan Yan, but couldn't say a word. He was still wearing an oxygen mask and needed external oxygen to maintain his body's needs. He couldn't take it off for the time being. As for eating, he couldn't even think about it. Apart from drinking some warm water to moisten his throat, he couldn't eat anything and could only rely on nutrient solution. I told you not to get angry anymore, but you just didn't listen. Nan Yan slowly pulled out the silver needle from his body, her tone very helpless. But she also knew that An Yeoking had done such a shameful thing and was exposed to the old man by Lulahua. It would be strange if he wasn't angry. Old man An looked at Nan Yan, not at all unhappy about being scolded by his granddaughter, but with a smile in his eyes. Grandpa, when your body gets better and you can move, come with me to the imperial capital. I will personally adjust your body, and you are not allowed to come back until your body is completely adjusted. Nan Yan was very domineering. Without even asking the old man's opinion, he made a decision directly. Old man An's eyes were more kind, but he shook his head slightly. He knew that Nan Yan did this for his health, worried that he would stay in Jinjinj and it would be difficult to recover. But An Yeoking did such a beastly thing, let Lulahua down, and brought shame to the An family. How could he leave at this time? He must give an explanation to the Lu family. Don't worry about the An family's affairs. They are not children anymore. Besides, this is a matter of their feelings. Why do you interfere? Grandpa won't blame you. If he wants to blame someone, he will only blame the person who can't control his lower body. Nan Yan's words made Mr. N look a little helpless. Of course, he understood that this matter was only An Yeoking's fault. He had long been cruel and kicked An Yeoking out of the old house, not wanting to care about anything related to him. But he would still be angry after such a thing happened. That beast got rid of the entire An family. Nan Yan was about to say something else when the door was suddenly knocked. Qin Lu looked back at Nan Yan, who was sitting beside Mr. N's bed, and got up to open the door. The shareholders outside the door saw Qin Lu and some people who knew him, and their expressions suddenly became excited. Mr. Qin, Mr. Qin. Why are you here? What is your relationship with Mr. N? The shareholders couldn't help but get excited. If Ans can get in touch with the Qin family, then there is no need to worry about Ans getting into trouble. As long as the Qin family is willing to lend a hand and help Ans a little, then Ans' desire to rise to prominence and rush into the first level of China is just around the corner. After all, the Qin family is the top family in China, with hundreds of years of heritage, which is simply not comparable to Ans. Several shareholders were excited, and suddenly they felt a powerful aura that made people feel palpitating. Under the huge pressure, they began to keep silent and shut their mouths. Qin Lu's face without any emotion was like a sacred god that people dared not look directly at in their eyes. They hurriedly lowered their heads and dared not look at him again. Who are you? Qin Lu's tone was indifferent, but it was coercive, which made people tremble with fear. We are shareholders of Ans. We heard that Mr. N was sick and hospitalized, so we came to visit him. A shareholder stared at the huge pressure and spoke with difficulty. The old man is in poor health and does not see people. After Qin Lu finished speaking, he closed the door in front of them. Shareholders locked outside. Qin Lu turned around and asked Nan Yan, who was looking over here, Yan Yan, do you want to see him? Nan Yan, no, Grandpa's body can't stand any stimulation, and he needs to rest during this period. Qin Lu smiled faintly, okay. Nan Yan looked at Grandpa An's expression and was a little anxious, and said faintly, Grandpa, the company's affairs are not your concern. You only have one task now, take good care of your body. You have so many grandchildren for the company's affairs. Let them figure it out. You can't do anything like this. It's better not to see them, so as not to add to your worries. Grandpa An. He only vaguely felt that Nan Yan seemed angry now. Not only was she angry with his useless parents, but she was also angry with him. Angry that he didn't protect his body and made himself sick again. Epsilon equals Omicron asterisk, alas. It seems that in order to prevent his precious granddaughter from continuing to be angry with him, he has to listen to her. Besides, he had not been in charge of the company's affairs for more than 10 years, and he had already delegated the power to others. Now he has a physical condition that makes it difficult for him to speak. Even if he wants to manage, he can't. After thinking it through, Mr. N no longer bothered about other things. Or what his precious granddaughter said was right. Now, his first task is to take care of his body. He has not seen his granddaughter get married, and has not seen her do scientific research and win glory for the motherland. He does not want to die yet. After thinking it through, Mr. N's mood also eased, and he nodded obediently. Seeing this, Nan Yan's tone softened a little, and coaxed, you can't eat for the next 2 days. When you feel better, I will make soup for you. Qin Lu smiled at the side. Yan is really good at coaxing the elderly. His old lady was also coaxed by her. In front of her, she was like an old child, with an extremely good temper. However, as long as Yan was not around, the old lady would show her true colors, and every time she threatened him to take Yan back, saying, if he doesn't take Yan home, he doesn't have to go home either. Hashtag. The shareholders outside the ward were turned away and had no choice but to go back. But compared to the depressed mood when they came, they were in a better mood now. The main reason was that they saw Qin Lu in Mr. N's ward. Although they didn't know what the relationship between Qin Lu and Mr. N was, they believed that as long as Mr. N spoke, Qin Lu would never ignore them. How could they not be happy to learn that Mr. N had a close relationship with the person in power in the Qin family? The original anger because of An Yeoking's mess that caused huge losses to the An family has now faded a little. An's home. Lu Lihua sat in the living room in a daze, like a wandering soul, looking at everything familiar here. Everything here was arranged by her own hands. She spent countless thoughts to make it look like it is now. After she married An Yeoking, she put all her thoughts on running the family. Because she loved An Yeoking, she gave birth to 5 children for him in 10 years, and willingly became a housewife, arranging the family's food, clothing, housing, and transportation. In the past 30 years, her only pastime was to go for beauty treatments and go shopping with her former wealthy sisters, and the rest of her time was devoted to her family. Those wealthy wives envied her and praised her as a winner in life whenever they met. The couple loved each other, and the children became successful. But An Yeoking's betrayal made her a joke, and her 30 years of hard work became meaningless. Nwao kept persuading her to calm down and not to divorce easily, but now she felt sick whenever she thought of the 3 words An Yeoking. Yao Yao, don't persuade me, I must divorce him. Lu Lihua's eyes were filled with strong resentment and disgust. Seeing him now is a torture for me. If I don't divorce, I will go crazy sooner or later. Mom, even if you want to divorce, you can't let that mistress get away with it. That mistress is the culprit who destroyed our family. She must pay the price. Nwao simply didn't persuade her not to divorce, but diverted the spearhead and asked her to turn her attention to that mistress first. She has harmed our family like this, we can't just let her go. Lu Lihua's blank expression showed strong hatred. You're right, we can't let her go like this, I can't live well, and I can't let her live well. Warm Ti.